Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to honorable members, the MEC, as well as the colleagues and the members of the public. In terms of the agenda, in terms of number 3, we have the confirmation of the agenda. Number 4, the presentations by the Department of Roads and Transport, the Gautrain Management Agency, as well as the GFleet on the responses to the first quarter report. The second, 4.2, is the Transport Infrastructure House in terms of the progress during the first quarter of the 22-23 financial year. Then on 4.3 is the presentation on the developments on the agreement that was signed with the Provincial Driving School. And on 4.4 is the planned grass cutting projects in Ekurhuleni as well as the progress to date. On number 5 is the stakeholder submissions. Number 6, the resolution tracking. Number 7, on the study on the political economy of transport. Number 8, on the NCOP and provincial bills. On number 9 is the petitions. Number 10, the correspondence, as well as the last item, which is the date of the next meeting and adjournment. That's the agenda for today. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Stimbuso. Honourable members, before I open up for your inputs or for anybody who wants to move for the adoption of the agenda, I want to make a proposal on a slight change to the order of proceedings on the agenda, and that is that I want to propose that item 4.3, presentation on the developments on the agreement signed with the Provincial Driving Schools, that be brought forward as 4.1. And then everything else will move down. So 4.1 would be the RTMC presentation, and 4.2 would become the responses by the department to questions on the first quarter report. The reason why I am proposing we do that is so that we can release the RTMC as soon as they're finished to attend to other business that they've got. And then we deal with the first quarter. And then I would also want to suggest that, if possible, well, hopefully the first quarter reports will be quite quick, and that we then, before we get to the infrastructure house, we bring through the grass cutting projects in Ekurhuleni straight after the first quarter presentation, and thereafter we open up for questions from community members so that the MEC is also able to reply to some of the questions that may be raised by yourselves as our visitors here and our guests. And then we'll deal with the presentation on the Transport Infrastructure House last. As I've indicated, the MEC needs to leave by around about 12:30. So honourable members, with that proposal on a slight adjustment in the program and the order of proceedings, I would like to check if there's anybody that would want to make any input or move for the adoption of the agenda. Member du Plessis? Member Ledwaba? Member Dolly Ledwaba?
I second, Chair.
Thank you very much. So, honourable members, we've agreed to the agenda. And just for yourselves that are listening and watching us, that is how we normally do our work. We agree to the agenda, and sometimes we make changes to the agenda, which is what we've done now. And the reason why we've made those changes, as I've said, is we want to make sure before the MEC goes that yourselves have been able to ask questions that you may want to ask, so that the MEC is here to answer some of those questions before he leaves. But what I'm going to do is to ask all those who are doing their presentations, we've received them already, really take us through the key points. We don't need to go through them word by word. Take us through the key issues so that we can try and move through the agenda as quickly as possible before the MEC goes. So on that note, I would then want to, perhaps through MEC and the HOD, I would want to hand over to the CEO of the RTMC to take us through the presentation that has been prepared on the agreements that have been reached with driving schools. It's not a long presentation, but let me hand over to yourself, Sue. And once again, welcome. and it's good to see you here with us as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair, as well as the members of the committee.
Please, I think it's easier if you sit down because of the microphone here. So please feel free to remain seated.
Thank you, Chair, as well as the members, honorable members of the committee, the MEC, as well as my colleagues. Chair, I will then request the EM in relation to the e-notice to do the presentation on our behalf. It's a very short presentation. EM Caravala, can you just take us through the process?
Is the presentation being flighted? That's the wrong presentation. We need the RTMC presentation. Stembiso, are you assisting there? Okay, what I suggest in the interim, to save time, let's allow the RTMC to continue and speak to the presentation and take us through. And when they get it flighted, they'll flight it. Is that all right?
Thank you, Chair.
Super.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the Portfolio Committee, Honorable MEC, HOD, and members of the public, Councillor. The report back focuses on the agreement that was signed between the Gauteng Province, RTMC, as well as Driving School Association. It was made up of 5 associations across the province, and the agreement basically sets out the working relationship between the parties. There was unhappiness at the beginning of the online booking system in just getting this. I don't think it's too far. Nothing working. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. It's fine. I'll just give you just which button?
Oh, it's this one for this one is the back. Okay, point there.
Nothing. I think it's too far. Somebody can just move it. It's fine. I'll just say next time. Okay. The agreement was focused on a registration system to be developed for all driving schools so that the province can manage and ensure that they work with legitimate driving schools, because there was a report of a number of fly-by-night schools that were operating in the province that was causing a lot of mayhem at the driving license testing centers. In addition to that, there was a request that the system be amended to make it easier for driving schools to book for their clients, because they had some difficulties right at the beginning having to create user profiles for the people, and then they forget the passwords and things like that. So, next slide. RTMC's involvement in terms of this agreement was twofold. With immediate effect, we had to remove the requirement for a user profile, and with a more medium-term time frame, we had to develop a register of driving schools and an online portal where the driving schools could apply to the province to be registered, be issued with a permit, and then only those driving schools that have got valid permits would be allowed to operate at driving license testing centers throughout the province. So the progress to date, we can confirm that as of the date of signature of the MOU, the online portal was amended. That's what the homepage looks like. And you can access the services for driving licenses without having to create a profile. Next slide. As you can see there, when you click on any services, I'm just highlighting in the top right corner, you don't have to be logged in. So the system is already compatible with that requirement and has been so for a couple of months. With regard to the new system that had to be developed, the system is ready. We are in the final process of doing acceptance testing with the province, and then it can be deployed online and to be used by the driving schools and by the province to manage these driving schools. There is a couple of engagements that were supposed to take place over the last few months, but they've been postponed for various reasons. And a final meeting with the driving schools to agree on the way forward is planned. We are waiting for feedback from their representatives in the matter to be able to settle the issue and to ensure that they start using the new functionality to register as driving schools. So yeah, that is, Chairman, in a summary, the work that has been done in terms of the implementation of the agreement with the driving schools. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. As we were told, it's a very short presentation of work that has been done with driving schools to enable them to, that work that is being done is to assist driving schools in being able to carry out their work easier. There was a number of problems they had with the booking system, with the manner in which it was set up, and they had concerns themselves. And driving schools around the province have been having discussions with the RTMC, and there's been some agreements on what can be done to help accommodate some of their concerns, and there are ongoing discussions that we understand as well with the driving schools. So on that note, let me check with members of the Portfolio Committee. You will know that we have been aware, and many of you would have been reading through the news, etc., media statements, the challenge that driving schools have been having, and the fact that there's been discussions, there's been some agreements reached. Let me check with members of the Portfolio Committee if you've got any questions you may want to ask in terms of what's been presented, or in terms of what you've been following in terms of the driving schools. I know that some members have raised this in the Portfolio Committee before, so let me open up to members of the Portfolio Committee. Members of the committee, I see.
Chair?
Yes. Member Kikana?
Yes, no, thank you very much. I think it was highlighted in the presentation that the discussions are ongoing. So I'm sure the Portfolio Committee will be updated on the developments as and when the developments and the discussions continue. So we appreciate the presentation thus far, and will await the progress made in future. Thank you.
Okay. I believe I've already seen somebody signal it. I believe there's people are struggling to hear on this equipment. Can those that are dealing with the...
Chair, it's when you look away from the mic's direction.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear now? Okay, so it's not that it's not working. It's when you happen to shift away from the microphone. That's what I've just been told. So I think we've all just learned something, that we need to speak closely to the microphone. I think that's the problem. So you can hear. Okay, super. Thank you. But I did see 3 hands that went up that I hope it's really clarity-seeking questions. So what I'm going to do, Member Kekana, their hands had already gone up, so I'm going to allow the three members very briefly to ask their questions on what's been presented. And if the RTMC is unable to answer now, we will always allow the RTMC to come back to us with the particular information that is maybe being requested. But let me allow the three members that have raised their hands just to very quickly ask the questions they wanted to ask. I've got Member Ledwaba, then I've got Member Nell, and then I'll take Member Duplessis very briefly. Thank you very much. Just remember to speak close to your microphone.
Thanks, Chair. Mine, Chair, is with regard to what led us to where we were with regard to these agreements that were ultimately signed. Remember, sometime in February, we were told about this new app, online app, and the issue is RTMC is behaving as if at the time when they introduced this app, there were no driving schools. Driving schools have been there before, even now. Then the question would be, if RTMC has got any addition, any update, any changes to the app, what are their internal processes? Because we can't just wake up in the morning and we are told that there are no changes without following any due process. Is there any due process that RTMC undertakes whenever there are changes to the system? Thank you.
Thank you, Member Ledwaba. Member Nell.
Thank you, Chair. As I said, the RTMC is probably one of the most inaccessible organizations in this country because when you email, their email bounce and you can never communicate with them. So when we get the opportunity, we really need to engage with them. So my first question with the RTMC is, where do they get the slots from that they populate on their system? And then secondly, a lot of the DLTCs often use NATO's downtime as an excuse for closing and not being able to help clients. Now, I know that NATO's uptime is fairly high, and that more than often it's a local problem and not a central problem. Is there no way that you can just put the status of NATO's on your website so that one can monitor that, please? Thanks.
Member Duplessis.
Thank you, Chair. Just a clarity-seeking question on the presentation we just had. It says, it makes specifically note of National Organization of Driving Schools of South Africa, NOTSA, has not signed the agreement and has not been attending meetings. Is there a specific reason for that? Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, honourable members. I'll hand back to the team from the RTMC. Two of the questions were related to the presentation. The other question was slightly deviated off the presentation, but the RTMC will see fit as to how they answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of the first question about the internal workings and how we address the issues of changes to the application, yes, there was unhappiness in February as the driving schools felt that they were not consulted enough, and that led to this agreement. So in future, we do have the steering committee that will be established with all of the different associations, where any changes affecting the functionality of driving schools, the bookings, will first be discussed with them before it gets implemented. That's the agreement that we have between the province, RTMC, as well as the driving schools in the province. Hope I've answered that, member. Then on the issue of the downtime, yes, it is correct that more often than not we have local connectivity issues, either Telkom or recently load shedding. So we are in the process of looking at alternative mediums for the network. So to replace the copper network with fiber or microwave as a reliable source. We do have 3G connectivity at the bigger sites. So in consultation with the province, we normally deploy 3G connectivity at the sites in the case of a telecom interruption. But there is a project underway to implement the next generation network that will remove us off the copper that we currently rely on. The proposal to add the uptime onto the website was something that we can definitely look at, and we can actually make it specific in terms of a center so that the public can see that the center is actually operational on that day. We can definitely add that onto the website. We'll make it a priority. On the question about the Driving School Association that's not part of or that hasn't signed, and I'm going to ask the HOD if he can handle that one.
Chair, good afternoon and thank you very much. Chair, according to our records, the one driving school that have not signed an agreement
HOD,
with us.
just make sure you speak close to the microphone
Okay.
so that they can hear.
Yeah, Chair, we have been engaging with the various driving schools as part of our meetings with them, but the National Organization of Driving Schools of South Africa, they have not signed the agreement.
HOD, sorry. There seems to be major problems with this equipment here. Let's just give you this roving mic so that people who are listening to the interpretation can hear.
Okay, I hope that sounds better, Chair. Chair, the National Organization of Driving Schools of South Africa is the only one that have not signed. What is a bit more concerning is the fact that they do not even attend meetings with us. So we have been sending emails to their offices to ask for separate engagements, but we were unable to do so. So they are the only one that has not come to the party, Chair. No feedback from them at this stage, but as a department, we trying to get them on board as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, HOD. Thank you very much to the team from the RTMC. The RTMC is the Road Traffic Management Corporation, and I just wanted to indicate something for the benefit of the committee. The RTMC doesn't report to the Portfolio Committee, and the RTMC doesn't even fall under the purview of the MEC or the Provincial Department of Roads and Transport. The RTMC actually falls under the National Department of Transport, and the RTMC, I know, would appear and interact quite regularly with the Portfolio Committee on Transport in the National Assembly. I know that because I was a member of the Portfolio Committee on Transport. So I just wanted to indicate, even for those of you that are here with us today, that it's not often that we would interact with the RTMC, because their reporting line is the National Department of Transport, the National Minister, and they would account on a regular basis to the Portfolio Committee on Transport in the National Assembly. So, yes, it's true, we don't often interact with the RTMC, and we are very grateful, in fact, that the RTMC was able to accept our request to come here today. And we do interact with the RTMC. We have had interaction when we've been visiting some of the driver license testing centers, but I thought I should just make that clear, that they do not account to this Portfolio Committee. But we felt we should invite them, and we are very grateful that they accepted our invitation. So I thought, let me end it on that. CEO, is there anything that you want to add on this, or you're fine?
No, thank you, Chair. I'm fine. Thank you, Chair.
So Thank you very much. And if there's a need to engage further, we will obviously communicate and see if that possibility is there. But as I say, we know that yourselves are interacting and accounting to the National Portfolio Committee on Transport on a regular basis. And we appreciate the work that the RTMC is doing. Just as on a slightly different note, I was in the committee when the RTMC came into being through legislation, and one appreciates the work that the RTMC is doing and where it takes steps to rectify matters that may arise from time to time. So on that note, what we will do, MEC, we did agree with the CEO of RTMC that when they'd finished, we would release them, because the rest of the meeting is not really relevant to them, and they also indicated that they have other matters they need to attend to today. So on that note, CEO and your team, thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to engaging with you again when we visit your DLTC again in the future. But thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much. Thank you. So honourable members, on that note, I want to then allow for us to proceed. As we did when we changed our agenda, we said that we would take, after the RTMC, would be the department responding to the Portfolio Committee's questions that we had raised that came out of its Q1 performance. But I want to hand over to the MEC for Roads and Transport in Gauteng, MEC Mamabolo. We've already welcomed him, but MEC, can I hand over to you and your team on the responses to our questions on the Q1 performance, but also any comments, anything that you would want to say before they proceed. But over to you, MEC. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. And let me also greet members of the Portfolio Committee of the Department of Roads and Transport. And let me greet the HOD, Dr. Darion Barkley, the CEO of Gautrain Management Agency, and Lebadudi ba Ekurhuleni le Gauteng ka moka ga yona. A tseba borna batho ba nkwana dumelang. Ke a kwala na. Taba tše di bolelwa mo le a di kwana go ba re bolela le a re kwa. Mo mesong ye ke le dumediše. Ke le tsebiše gore rena re le Department ya Roads and Transport ya dipalangwa le ditsela mo Gauteng re biditšwe mo ke maloko a komiti ya Gauteng Provincial Legislature ba e leng gore ba tlile gore botšiša dipotšišo go ya le ka mokgwa re šomang ka gona mo departmenteng ya rena ke ba Portfolio Committee. Mošomo wa bona o mogolo ko go lebelela gore na re dira mošomo wa rena gabotse na mo go šomela mošomong wa rena wa go šomela setšhaba. Bjalo mmamotla ba kgethile lefelo le gore e be mo ba swarelang dipoledišano tša bona le rena mo ba re botšišang gore na re šoma bjang ke re swantše re ba arabe mo mošomong o re o dirang wa department. Re na le ba CEO wa Gautrain Gautrain, I'm sure ba bantši ba lena le kwele ka yona. Ke a tseba gore mo Ekurhuleni ga e a tla e fella ko airport empa CEO wa Gautrain o gona mo Mamotla. Le head ya department ya rena ke yo le ba G Fleet ba gona le bona e leng ba ba tlhokometseng dikoloi tša mmušo. Beanong re tlo araba mo ge le ba kwa ba re botšiša dipotšišo ke gona gore ba dira mošomo wa bona gore re ba arabe gore na re dirang re šoma bjang. Beanong le lena ba tlo le fa nako ya gore le re botšiše dipotšišo re le department gore na re šoma bjang ge e le gore go na le mathata tša transport ditsela bjalo le bjalo mo ka bang o dula gona le ka no re botšiša potšo e nngwe le nngwe ye e tsamaelanang le tša ditsela diterene di-taxi di-bus di-e-hailing Uber Bolt ka moka ga tšona le ka no re botšiša se le ka nyakang gore botšiša ba tlhalefa sebaka. Beanong a ke nyake go tšea nako ke be ke nyako gore mo go lena ke re e reng re le dumediše re le tlhalosetše gore nangane re tlile mo Mamotla re tlo dirang ga botsena yela ba bolela ka yona ya mathomo le bakweleng ba bolela ka yona ba be ba bolela ka ditaba tša di-license tša di-driver license tšeo di bitšwang di-TLTC mafelo ao batho ba yang go ona go nyakiša tša di-license le yona yeo le ka no re botšiša ka yona ge e le rona le bothata bja tša di-license le yona e buletšwe o ka no tla re botšiša ka yona. Bjalong Chair, I don't want to take your time. I just want to say, the HOD here, our accounting officer, will make a presentation on the issues that you have asked us to answer to you and to your committee members. The HOD will make a presentation. Se ke se bolelang se ke gore go modulasetulo o a ileng yena head ya department o tla dira presentation ya department go tše ba re botšišitšeng tšona beanong le tlano ba le lena le theeleditše tsebe ga ena sekhurumelo le lena le taba le nouta ye le noutang gore ena kwa dipotšišo e tla le botšiše mare engwe le engwe ya transport le ge ba sa bolele ka yona mo mara wena e go tshwenya o tla ba e le gore o dumeletše gore o ka e botšiša. Bealong ka se sebaka, Chair, I would like to hand over to the HOD to present the report. Thank you very much. HOD.
Okay, MEC, Honorable MEC, thank you very much. Chairperson, thank you very much. Can I ask that the Secretariat just load the presentation? Chairperson, essentially the presentation focus on the responses to Q1 reports. And in essence, we are saying that there were a few questions raised. The one question relates to the setting aside of procurement for people with disabilities and township-owned enterprises. So, Chair, we say that government has processes to deal with that, but if there is legislation that has been promulgated, what will happen is if a service provider do not qualify and the service provider do not meet the designated categories, the service provider do not employ people from the community, such service providers can be disqualified. Currently, you have no mechanism to disqualify a service provider, and the department is implementing its own measures now to compel our main contractors to submit invoices and payment certificates of the appointed contractors, particularly the subcontractors, so that we as a department can monitor whether they are meeting the designated group targets, but then also making sure that the companies do have designated groups in the employment. So that is what we are saying, Chair, but as a provincial government, there is systems in place, but when the central supplier database, the issues have changed in terms of women, people with disabilities and youth, you actually can't do anything to that service provider once that service provider is appointed. So some more regulatory framework to deal with that will be important for us. Chair, on the issue of the transport infrastructure program, it's important to note that that is one of the biggest programs in the department. It's the program that deals with infrastructure delivery. The department is implementing both quarterly and monthly monitoring systems in place to ensure that we meet the targets. But it is an area, Chair, that is quite contested out there. It is an area that needs to be continuously monitored. We're looking at our poor performance areas. We are implementing interventions. And we're also currently looking at our indicators that is due on a quarterly basis, indicators that's due even on an annual basis, so that we can start tracking them from now on. Chair, on the next slide, we're just sharing with you which are those indicators that we need to monitor. It relates to the planning for our smart mobility work that we are doing, the surface roads, gravel roads, but then also the infrastructure plans that needs to be developed. Some of these indicators are annual indicators. Some of them are quarterly indicators. We believe, Chair, that from an infrastructure perspective, if we do not have any further interdicts, we should be in a position to achieve. This is one of the areas that brought us a little bit down in Q1. Whilst as a department, we believe that the 57% that we have achieved is a significant improvement from the 42% that we have achieved in the previous quarter. Chair, we will also be monitoring the surface roads and also the gravel roads. But more importantly, Chair, this particular program is where we're looking at our EPWP opportunities. Now that we have appointed the maintenance contractors, the work that these maintenance contractors will be doing in communities, we will have to make sure that local labor from the communities are employed. This is a target in previous years that we have not done too well on. And now that we have the appointed service providers, we should significantly improve. That is across all the categories. And on the next slide, we're just sharing with you where we are in terms of the numbers. You can see the numbers that we'll have for Q2 and 3, and also Q4, and then what is our annual targets insofar as that is concerned. It is then also important to note, Chair, these are our targets going forward, and then for EPWP, the work opportunities that we need to create in terms of the rehabilitation projects has also been structured there. Chair, we believe that the building of the capacity in the department, particularly in the branch of roads, will go a long way in making sure that we're meeting our targets. It is going to be a longer term process. It's not going to be a quick fix. But as a department, with the performance that we have in Q1, I can say that the department is on the right trajectory. I think as a department, Chair, we need to find a specific way, a proper standard operating procedure to fast track our tenders, but then also fast tracking the due diligence that is taking place as part of our tender processes. Chair, the one question was why there was an increase in the operations in the DRT 109 route. And what we are saying is there was additional routes that were subsidized, and that resulted in the increase in ridership. And then also after the contract has been awarded, the Gauteng Coaches and Riponza joint ventures, they operated 17 routes with 17 buses, but that has also now increased to 54 routes and 24 buses. That is primarily why there has been an increase in the DRT route 109. Chair, in terms of the final question, just to share with you the reasons why we have lower expenditure, the 4% under expenditure is primarily related to two particular areas. One relates to the bus subsidies, and the other relates to the delay in the maintenance contractors that has not been appointed, and the delay in their expenditure there. We believe, Chair, now that we have appointed, if we can fast track contracting in the month of September, we should be in the 1st of October starting progressively with the rollout of some of our projects. And as we are dealing with some of the project stoppages as a result of engagements with communities, we are putting social facilitators in place to deal with communities, to make sure that we also get communities on board. That should progressively also improve the manner in which we deal with our performance. Chair, there is also some intervention measures that we are sharing with you on the next slide, and that is to fast track the tender process. The term contracts for grass cutting has been appointed. But then also what was very valuable in Q1, and as a result of the increased expenditure, is the nature of the interventions that the compliance office is undertaking, and that has been very useful. Chair, the appointment of the PSPs and the finalization of the standard operating procedures should also have a significant contribution towards our improvement in expenditure. Chair, that is the DRT. I would like to go on to the G-Fleet report, and then once I'm done with the G-Fleet Q1 report, I will invite the CEO of Gautrain on so that he can take the Gautrain report. But essentially, Chair, under G-Fleet, if the colleagues can go to the G-Fleet report.
What I'd like to ask HOD, when you are giving the response on G-Fleet, just explain what G-Fleet is about, who G-Fleet is and what do they do. Because there are some of our guests here today, that might not know who G-Fleet is. So if you can just, minute or two, just explain who G-Fleet is, if you don't mind. Thanks. Sorry to interrupt you. You want to do it? Okay. The MEC has said he'll explain first. Thanks, MEC.
Okay. Bare mo report e batlang mo go yona. Ba bolela ka eo e bitswang G-Fleet. Bano modulasetulo mo re tlhalose gore na G-Fleet ke eng. Gore ge ba e fa report ka yona le be le tseba gore na go bolelwa ka eng. Bano nkirile ke ba thushe ke tlhalose ke tshepa gore ke tla e tlhalosa gabotse ge ke sa e tlhalosa gabotse le tla re le botšiša dipotšišo la bontšha gore la ikwešiša. Mo mmušong dikoloi a ke rena department ya transport a ke rena ba re swaraganeng le transport mo mmušong wa Gauteng. Bjalo ka ge ke tlhalositše go na le di-taxi go na le di-bus bjalo le bjalo le bjalo. Empa go na le dikoloi tša mmušo o tla di bona gantši di na le number plate ya go ngwadiwa G. Le tšona dikoloi tše re di reilang re le di-MEC Premier le tšona dikoloi tšeo ke dikoloi tša mmušo. Bjanong go na le mokgatlo wa mmušo goba nkare mo departmenteng ya rena re na le entity e bitswang G-Fleet. G-Fleet eo e kwa ka sekgowa o ka nagana gore ke ntho e nngwe kgolo ya kgole ya go se tlhalose ge e no raya gore dikoloi tša mmušo. G ela e emetše government, Fleet e no raya gore dikoloi tša mmušo. Bano o e kwa go bolelwa ka yona o ka nagana gore go bolelwa ka ntho e nngwe yei sente ba no raya gore dikoloi tša mmušo, government fleet. Bjanong e mo departmenteng ya rena ba komiti ya portfolio committee ba re botšiša dipotšišo ka yona gore na yona mošomo wa yona o sepela bjang go hlokomela le go reka le go rekiša dikoloi tša mmušo. E reka dikoloi ya di hlokomela ya di servisa ya di lokiša ge di fitlile mo e leng gore di na le mengwaga ya godimo ba di rekiša. Bjanong re araba tša bona gore na di sepela bjang. So go bolelwa ka taba ya dikoloi tša mmušo I'm sure ke lekile ka spedi ba rang ke bontšha ka moka ga bjona mara nka se bolele goreng nka tla ka senya. Okay.
Thank you, MEC, for that explanation. Chairperson, under G-Fleet, what we call government fleet, there was essentially 3 questions. The one relates to the changing of the banking details. You will note that the provincial government have gone out on a tender process and the bankers was changed. Of course, as a department, we had to inform all our clients that the banking details have changed. But obviously, as the department, whilst we have submitted the proof of change in bank details to our clients timely, there were some of our clients that could not pay as a result of the changes. So the payments has been made, but of course, because of the banking details that have changed of government, automatically the payments did not reflect. So, Chair, what we are saying is that we have provided timely information. The bank account have moved from the First National Bank to Standard Bank, and under the guidance of the Provincial Treasury, we have liaised with all our clients to change the banking details. But despite the correspondence, there was 3 major clients that could not make the payment. And as part of slide 9, we are just sharing with you that the 3 was the National Department of Health that owes the department about 5.2 million, the Government Pensions Administration Agency that owes about 2.1 million, and then also the National Department of Military Veterans that owes the department 3.5 million. So that is essentially what is outstanding, and primarily all these 3 departments have given us remittance advices that they have paid, but it was into the wrong banking account. So that transfer will then be made to the department so that it can reflect correctly. So as soon as that's sorted out, we shouldn't have a problem. Chair, then there was just a typo area on the presentation, the first report that we have submitted. The team of the committee researchers was indeed correct that the expenditure to date for that particular area under the CFO was 742,000. I think the only difference there was just how the columns were reflected. So there was just a typo area in that. But the team was correct. It has not changed any of the information because the information on the system is correct. I think it was just how the information was captured on the report, Chair. So we can say that the information is correct. It was just merely making sure that the information was then transferred across the different tables, and the colleagues have that. Chair, we have attached as part of our presentation just the letters to prove that we have submitted to our clients the changes in bank details. But of course, even when our clients need to change the bank details, there is a process that they need to undertake. That was essentially the questions from Chief Fleet. Chair, let me invite the CEO up. Sometimes I think the CEO is staying in Ekurhuleni because he's sitting in the audience. He's part of us, Chair. Can we load the presentation from Gautrain colleagues, the presentation on the Q1 report?
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Members, MEC, HOD and guests. If I could have the presentation, please. Chair, there were 2 questions relating to the Gautrain Management Agency. The Gautrain Management Agency is the entity reporting to the MEC of Transport, responsible for oversight of the Gautrain system. Chair, the questions related to the increase in train and bus ridership. If I could have the next slide, please. Does it work? And then the second one was related to additional sources of revenue in the quarter under review. Chair, there has been a very pleasing growth in ridership on the Gautrain trains and buses. Remember, we also have minibuses operated by minibus taxi associations, and this has been over the last quarter. We've put a graphic in place to show the train ridership since we opened in 2010. And you'll see it grew over time and then suddenly that drop in 2020 with the COVID pandemic and the lockdowns. But the growth since then, as you can see, has been steadily upwards. A similar story with the bus trips. You'll see that the increase over the last year has been very pleasing, and the last quarter as well. But the best story has been in terms of the minibuses. Okay, these are the minibus taxi association buses that run for Gautrain out of the stations. And you'll see, looking at the graph, that they are even higher than they were before COVID. So we think this is a very good model going forward. In terms of the financials of it, Chair, the pandemic and the lockdowns had a very serious impact on all of public transport and rail public transport and Gautrain. We've put together a graphic, Chair. We won't go through it now, but I think members must have a look at this, and you'll see just in terms of absolute numbers what has happened in each one of those services. So what we did was we did an estimate to say, if the pandemic had not happened, plus minus, just an estimate, how much revenue would there have been? We estimate that the pandemic cost us 1.7 billion rand. Chair, that's very important because these losses had to be shared between the province and our operator, the concessionaire, and our share of that loss was the increase in the patronage guarantee. As we stand today, we don't have the final numbers for the year, but where we're standing at the moment, those losses are shared between the province and the concessionaire. Our patronage guarantee remains capped, and until such time as the number of rail and bus passengers goes above what is known as the concessionaire's demand forecast. So, Chair, I would summarize all of that very technical answer by saying we're still in the recovery phase. We don't know exactly the impact, but we're starting to emerge from the worst levels of the pandemic. Chair, then just in terms of additional sources of revenue, this is a very technical question. There were 3 sources of additional revenue: 364,000 rand from the sale of scrapped assets, just under 2 million rand in interest, and 1.8 million rand, which was income earned from operating the DLTCs at the Gautrain stations. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, yes, that concludes the Q1 presentations.
No, thank you very much, HOD. I think this microphone's better, and we'll pass around between us as members as well. What I want to do just very quickly, because I want to allow yourselves to ask questions. As I indicated, the MEC will be leaving at about 12:30. But I just want to check with members of the committee. In terms of the presentations that have been made from the department on behalf of G-Fleet and the Gautrain Management Agency, is there any questions members might want to ask? If there are none, I don't see any hands. All right. I see no hands from the committee. So I take it in terms of the answers we've received, members are okay. So what I want to do, and I appreciate that, members, that we're giving more time to community members. Now, what I want to now allow yourselves to be. The MEC spoke right at the beginning, and he indicated that they will answer any questions you ask as well that relate to the Provincial Department of Roads and Transport. You've heard a little bit about G-Fleet. You've heard a smaller bit about the Gautrain. You've probably read a lot in the news recently about the Gautrain. Maybe you have had to go and renew your driver's license. Maybe you've struggled a bit and you want to ask about that. Or maybe even you went to renew your driver's license and it went very quickly. And you also want to comment about that and give feedback to the MEC and the department. Just now, we will be having a presentation about the cutting of grass on provincial roads in Ekurhuleni. But you may want to ask something about that because maybe you've driven on the highway near Ekurhuleni and the grass is long and you want to know why it's not being cut. You want to ask questions about that. So I'm just saying this is an opportunity that we want to give to yourselves. I just want to say that the reason why we have brought this committee meeting here to Tsakani today is because firstly, we wanted some of you to get an understanding how the legislature works. and how we do our work as a portfolio committee. All of us sitting here are members of the committee. The MEC is also a member of the legislature. We are members of the Gauteng legislature. And when you voted in the elections in 2019, you voted for a particular party. And when you voted for a particular party, some of those parties that you voted for got sufficient votes to have members of their party in the Gauteng legislature. And so we are from different parties. Some of us are from the ruling party, some are from the opposition parties. But when we are in this committee, we generally work together. And so, as I've said, the purpose for us coming here today, we wanted to come here, firstly, for yourselves that have come here to get an understanding. What does the Gauteng legislature do? What do we do as public representatives? We wanted you to hear us engaging with the department about some of their presentations, to ask questions of the department. And you've heard that already. That's the kind of work we do in the portfolio committees. But the other reason why we come to communities like this regularly throughout the year is because we want you to be able to ask questions, not only to us, but to the department, to the MEC. We play an oversight role over the department. But it's your right to be able to ask questions, because some of you may have concerns, some of you may want to know different things, and this is an opportunity. So I don't think we have made a wrong decision about coming here. I've been watching some of you. Some of you have been responding as the MEC has been talking, etc. So what I'm going to do, you need to work with me on this. I'm going to take 5 hands from this side, and then I'm going to take 5 hands from this side. All right? Okay? And what I want to ask is that we keep your question short, because I want to be able to do a second round before the MEC has to leave us. But I know when the MEC leaves, his officials are staying here. And so we will then continue with the other presentations, and we'll allow you again to ask some questions. Is that all right? So I won't be able to take all the hands that are going up, okay? But we'll try and give a second round. So what I want to do is I'm going to start with this side here. I'm going to take the lady here in black, number 1. The lady behind you, I think it's the lady behind you in blue, number 2. The gentleman over there, number 3. I see there the person wearing glasses and the blue top, number 4. And then the person with the red top at the back, number 5. So I think you may have to come up here, and they will help with the microphone. So if those 5 of you can come here to the front, if you can come to the front, and then they will give you the microphone here at the front so that you can ask your question, and then we'll allow the department to respond, and then I'll come to this side and take the next 5 hands. Is that all right? But please understand, if I don't count your hand, it's not because I don't want to. All right? Let's work together. So the first 5 I'm taking here will come this side next. Okay. Is that all right? Who's helping with the microphone? Can you give it to the our first guest to ask their question? Can I say to you, we'll give you 2 minutes? 2 minutes to ask your question? Is that all right? Yeah. Cool. Over to you. Can we listen as well, eh?
Oh, how are you, Mpagati? You are fine. Oh, I just want to ask you ngifuna ukubuza ngomgaqo osinawo lana sinemigwaqo eminingi engalungiswanga esibonayo sonke siyazi mphakathi sinawo imigwaqo eminingi engalungiswanga, so ngifuna ukuzwa kubo ukuthi njengoba bathi bacashana nge-EPWP, ngoba i-EPWP obviously iya criticize umphakathi ayiwuthathi wonke, ithatha labo nalawo. So into esingayenza, because bakhona abaqalile i-main road bayayisebenza la, but awasithathi ezinsonke singama section local yala. So bengifuna ukubuza lokho ukuthi sikwenza kanjani lokho, sisenza kanjani? Thanks.
Ngiyabonga ujabulani wakamkhonza lo. I-chairperson yabagibeli bamabhasi aseTsakane. Ngithanda ukubonga leli thuba nokuthi u-MEC wethu baba uMababule abe khona. Ngiyacabanga baba uMababule sibe nemihlangano eminingi nawe. NasiyamaSkrali ngakunikeza lokho njani memorandum yethu singabahlali baseTsakane. Ngenkinga esinayo ngamabhasi. Ngibhlungu kakhulu because of MMC lokho njani uMabunda ebesese MMC ngabe nayo ukhona. Kodwa ngiyacabanga ukuthi usibalekile ngekho namhlanje. Kuyinkinga sinayo yamabhasi. Sasibhekile ukuthi njengoba nisithathela amabhasi ebenithembisile ukuthi nizosinikeza ilokho njani i-deviation plan kuze kube manje eTsakane sinawo amabhasi. So sisalindile singabagibeli baseTsakane ukuthi nisithatha nisibekaphi because of sisesenenkinga sukela uJanuary wonke from last year ngoDecember sikakabi namabhasi enanisithembisile ukuthi nisesebhizi ngendaba yamathenda ukuthi kahle kahle kwenzakalani. Sifuna ukwazi baba Mababule ukuthi amabhasi aseTsakane abuya nini because abagibeli bayakhala ngamabhasi. Sinenkinga kuma trains angekho futhi nawo because sinabazali okwabogogo la nama single parents abahamba ngama public transport. Sibulawa itaxi manje. Imali yakhona iphakeme kakhulu. So siyawadinga amabhasi wethu ukuthi mawabuye, siyawadinga ama train ukuthi mawabuye. Because of bengasiboni isidingo sokuthi sitshelwe ngelokho njana la ngeGautrain because of ngokuya ngami iGautrain yabantu abadliva izamane likaPondo ama elites. Esikubhekile thina la esikubhekile la ukuthi thina sizotshelwa ngetransport esihamba ngayo amabhasi ukuthi abuya nini kahle kahle because sizamile kumhlangano esawuhlala no-MMC uAlco Ngobese ngiyakhumbula akuthinta personal efonini waba nendlela ukuthi sithembise ukuthi mhlawumbe kungenza kube ne-deviation plan kodwa kuze kube manje akakenzeke lutho unyaka sowuziyaphela sihleli namalungu we-Department of Transport basinikeza i-40 days to 60 days so lokube sithembisa kuze kube manje akakwenzakali lutho. Siyacela ukuthi amabhasi aseTsakane awabuye because uyeza u2024 ekuyofanele ukuthi futhi siphinde sinivotele sinibuyisele la ukuthi nizokhona soloku nisicindezela because sazi ukuthi thina uma ngabe sivotela abantu ukuthi kube yisebenzi zethu kungabi amabhosi wethu because uma kuthathwa isinqumo sokukhipha amabhasi eTsakane azange akhulunyiswana nomphakathi waseTsakane. Ngiyakhumbula ngo2020 saba nemarch eya eJimmiston la sanikezana khona ngememorandum yethu kunokuba siphendulo ngememorandum azange saphendulwa kodwa ekugcineni kwakhishwa amabhasi. So siyacabanga ukuthi abantu esisebenza nabo kuba abantu esithi siyabakhetha ukuthi babe inkokheli zethu basisebenzele kuba yibona futhi abasigcilazayo. Sasithi i-apartheid yayingcono kunamanje kodwa ngathi imali ikhathi manje sibhekane nayo ngoba isimo esibhekana naso nokuba izinto zihambe ngendlela ile khathi nisicindezela. Sicela ukuthi amabhasi mawabuye. Ngiyabonga.
Ngibingelele emgcini wesihlalo lo okhuluma phambi kwenu unesihlatshwayo from Ward 96 eDavidton. Ngihlala eMayfield Extension 9 whereby ngiseva ku ward committee ku sector infrastructure. So ngibonge kakhulu ukuthi sithola ithuba lokuthi sizokhuluma ngezemigwaqo. Ngine question eyi1 engifuna ukuyibuza ukuthi kwenziwa yini ukuthi uma ngabe silethelwa insizwe efana nezomgwaqo mhlambe esectionini ethizeni kwenziwe ama main road only and then bese ziyasala le itrade ezinye ezikhona lapho kuleyo section. Lokho kusenza ukuthi sibe ne question mark ukuthi mhlambe istrade esithize isona esivota ungidlula lezi ezinye. So kubalekile ukuthi insizwa zonke esicelweni esiba khona endaweni yokuhlala ukuthi uma kulungiswa isection kwezemigwaqo ilungiswe yonke iphele. So okwesibili ebengifuna ukungidlulisa futhi endaweni yethu yokuhlala sinenkinga ye crime kakhulu ecreatewa indawo ezingamabush kakhulu iganga. Lapho siye sacela futhi ukuthi uhulumeni wethu angenelele like asifakele ama street lights or ama Apollo because abaka identify ukuthi kulezo indawo lezo yiphi into abafuna ukusisiza ngazo kulezo indawo. So njengoba ngilapha kwendawo ngicela ukuthi izinsiza zethu bese ziyaphumelela njengokwesicelo sethu. Ngiyabonga.
Sanibonani. Lo mephamgweni ngu-Vivian from Ward 96, a concerned member, a community. Honorable Mama Bulo, ngibhlungu kakhulu mfowethu, because we've been raising these issues and we've been writing petitions to your office, but you never come endaweni yethu yokuhlala uzobona izinto esikhala ngazo, because i-office yakho ilokhu ithola ama-report ngezinto ezingekho ezingenzakalanga Mama Bulo. So hope this time le panel ekhona manje izoyenza into right. My plea is, please can you come down to our places nizobona lezinto esikhala ngazo, because ama-councillors wethu ayeza anikeza ama-report ngezinto ezingenzakalanga. Ngiyacela ke my chairperson lapho ukuthi anike nizeni phansi. Ngiyabona nalapha ya kwi-presentation yakho kune proposed intervention eyenzakalayo lapha ngibona izitrato i-K31 R82 R174, but i-K58 eyaproposwa kwaphuma nebudget yokuthi kwenziwe istrato esisuka eVista sihambe e96 siyofika eBarcelona. Leso strato till to date leso strato asikenziwa. I'm sure it's nearly 6 to 7 years if not mistaken. So bengicela ukubuza kinina lapho ngaphambili ukuthi le budget ishone kuphi, yehle ngomlenze na imali yakho nebekufuza ukuthi yenze istrato, because the budget has been approved. Ukuze kupropose le K58 ke kwatholakala ukuthi i-Aceland seyihamba imoto eningi and kwenzeka ingozi lapha ya. Manje Mama Bulo, my plea ngicela ni check ukuthi what happened ngale mali le. And we also have a challenge yes storm water. Istrato zenziwe maningayo checka lapha eGumbi Street. Kune storm water nyane yenziwa lapha ya. When raining amanzi ayema lapha imoto azikhona ukuhamba and ekugcineni lento izoyenza ingozi. So besicela ukuthi nakhona nisicheckele ukuthi ibudget ishonephi, because imali yaphuma yokuthi kuyolungiswa leso storm water. Sike saba nembizo eDavidton lapho uMMC we-infrastructure wayifikile, sithe masi raise these issues wathi yena into ayitholile i-report izile e-ofisini yakhe and ukhansela ureportile wathi zonke lezi zinto thina esikhala ngazo zikhona. So bengicela ukuthi sike niyeni lapha e96 sike siyothatha ithonani sike sibone ukuthi zonke lezi zinto ezireportiwe ukuthi zenziwe na, because sizohlala emoyeni thina singabahlali base Ward 96. Nina ni office nazi ukuthi yonke into yenzakela, izindlu zikhona, izitrato zenziwe, but akukwanto yenziwe lapha ya. Bengicela ke ukuthi asike kuloko nidlala ngathi nisibhalisa ama petition size la legislature sizo reporta, at the end of the day ayikho into enisenzela yona. Ngiyabonga.
Igama lami ngubafana wamazibuko. Ngihlala la eWard 81 eLangaville. My first one will be just a comment to say your invites never reached abantu. Like mina ngizwe namhlanje kuseni ngomunye umngani wami ukuthi ngemphelezele la. So whoever is supposed to be here, I comment Nancy Davidton because they are here in numbers. Kusho ukuthi bayasebenza abantu base Davidton. But thina laba enisizele la itsakane, most of us are not here. The relevant stakeholders are not here. So that one you must take it to note. And then my second one is, when you enter here at Tsakane, we've got the problem traffic backlog. Masingena la elokishini. And most of the time masicela ukuthi sikhuliselwe i-black road ilingane nazo zonke izitrate engenayo kwamanye amalokishi esihlala siya kuwo awodumo. Sitshela ukuthi hayi i-competence akusiye yabo eyenu. So besinicela ukuthi lana abantu bayafa la e-black road. Istrate sincane. Besinicela ukuthi ke niyibheke le ndlela ukuthi ayikho indlela eningenza ngayo ukuthi niyikhulise. Then and also we have a problem. I'm staying in Langaville. Kunabantu abakhe ama-shacks in the places ebebathi reserved for a rail. So what is your plan? Because since ngize ngina 50 years now, since ngikhula ngitshela ukuthi there's a railroad that is coming, mara ngibona sekunemikhukhu eyakhiwe abanye bakha ama-hardware lapho kuleyo railroad. What is your plan? And how long does your plan takes? Or ngiyoze ngife or izizukulu zami ezoyibona that plan of yours? And also, you've been presenting about EPWP. EPWP is not working for us. Really, the reality is EPWP is feeding those who are fed already. Because people are coming here with the amateur jobs with 2 months for Abo Baba and Abo Mama who are supposed to feed their families all through the year. Nizanama programs lana that will last about 5 months or 6 weeks. Abantu bagcine bangaqashekanga. And some of these companies, most of them are coming from wherever. Beze nabantu babo babagcokisa ama-overall orange. And this EPWP is not working for our communities. Please have another look. ukuthi kuyenza kanjani. And then there's also another one. Entry plan yama SMMEs. You are talking now about ama driving schools la. But your bureaucracy or red line on dealing with our small businesses. Most of our small businesses from the townships, awanazo le into lezi nizifunayo kuma requirement wenu. Nenza njani increase or ukwenza ukuthi labo bantu labo nabo babe absorbed ku system. Kungandi ukuthi abantu bagcine bangatholanga umsebenzi ngoba kune red line nifuna izinto eziningi ebantwini abangazange bake basebenza even before. So mangizohlala phansi bengicela ukubuza ke mina ukuthi njengamanje okay, I know I'm going to cut. We've got the problem with school traffic. Ngicela ukukunikeza unansika school transport. Baba Mamambulo, ngicela ukunikeza umphako ukuthi mangabe uhleli as naba education. Thina lapha eLangaville there are no buses that are passing our kids to school. Why thina si excluded from the system yabantwana abaya esikolweni ngoba abantwana bethu we don't have schools in Langaville. Most of abantwana bafunda eTsakane and KwaThema. So what is your plan? Thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me? Right. I think we've taken the 5 questions, but I was told the gentleman right here in front had his hand up, and I apologize for missing your hand. I want to give you that opportunity now, give you 3 minutes, and then I'm going to hand back to the MEC, and then we'll take another round. Okay.
Honorable legislators, my greetings. My name is Prince Mongezi Mchekwa Ramabulane, and I want to commend you for the work that you do. The question I want to ask relates just to the well-being of the community, particularly to do with taxis, Benoni tax associations. what struck me personally is that the taxi ranks have been moved in Benoni in particular. So now people cannot access these taxi ranks. And there's a kind of oppressive nature or relationship that is just coming up between the taxi operators and the community. So this is causing problems in terms of just the socialization process and the well-being and the happiness factor in our lives. So MEC and the political heads of government, could you kindly look into this matter of taxis and battles between and prices? Well, there's nothing much we can do about prices, but specifically this has to do with how taxi transportation is efficiently run. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, sir. You were very quick, to the point. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hand over to the MEC, or do you want us to take another 5? Sorry? So let me hand over to the MEC, and then we'll take a second group from here. MEC and the team, can we hand over to you?
Thank you very much, Chair. E re le leboge bao ba hweditseng sebaka sa go botša dipotšišo. Let me just ask HOD to respond to some, and then I'll come back. Ke tla boya. HOD.
Okay, thank you very much, MEC, and to all the questions. We can say that the issue of the bus company has been a problem for quite some time, because services was not rendered by the Brakpan Bus Company. We have since engaged with our provincial treasury. We have a negotiation team on the ground that will be negotiating with service providers in the area to bring the buses back as soon as possible. We are hopefully, if everything goes well, MEC and Portfolio Committee, we should see services being restored within the next 2 months or so. But we plan to start the negotiations towards the end of August, beginning September. We also know that the problem with EPWP, it's not only a problem in this community, it's a problem with all communities. What we will be doing is the contractors that we do appoint in this particular communities will make sure that the local labor is employed, so that there can be work opportunities created. But we have picked up it is a problem. The same applies with SMMEs. What we are doing when we appoint contractors, when we issue work packages to the community, we need to make sure that we can advertise these work packages in areas, in shops, at the community centers, at libraries, so everybody can have access to it. Because we often find in other areas as well, where we advertise these work packages, not everybody has access to it. So we as a department, we will work with the local councillors to make sure that when we advertise these opportunities for EPWP, for SMMEs, that everybody gets involved in so far as that is concerned. We are taking note of the problems in so far as the roads are concerned. Black Road, some of the roads that's in the actual community. Once we have a meeting with the Ekurhuleni Transport and Roads Department, it's actually roads and stormwater, it will be brought to their attention. We will see how we as a department can work with them to improve some of the work that needs to be done in there. MEC, I think let me stop there. We will look also at the issues of the traffic, the backlogs and so on, so that we need to deal with it. But we will be conducting some studies just to ascertain what's the traffic flow, and at some point, Chairperson, I'm sure we will come back to this community to give them feedback Some answers we have, some answers we will probably have in the foreseeable future. MEC, let me stop there and hand over back to you.
Okay, no, it's working. Thank you very much once more for the puchuche di puchischeng. Now, re ke thome ka puchuela ya ntate a reng meeting yo ka mokgwa ba o arrange-tšeng ka gona le be le sa tsebe, especially badudi ba mo. Yeo re tla e tlogelela modulasetulo le ba komiti gore ba e arabe ka gore le rena ge re le mo re memilwe ye e tla araba ke bona. Go na le o a botšišitšeng ka taba ya dipase. HOD o e arabile empa ke be ke nyako e araba gape gore se re ka se dirang ka taba ya dipase mo Ekurhuleni le mo provinceng ka moka ga yona go na le taba tše pedi. Ya mathomo go na le dipase tša Ekurhuleni, dipase tša city ya Tshwane, go na le dipase tša dimasepala. Bjanong ba bolela nnete ge ba re ga nkabe re be re ile ra bana le MMC Ngobeni wa transport mo Ekurhuleni ka gore mo Ekurhuleni re kwe gore na bona plan ya bona ya dipase e tsamaya bjang a be a e araba. Bjalong unfortunately ga a gona. Rena re tla re dula fase le bona ba Ekurhuleni ra leka go kwešiša gore na taba ya dipase tša bona le mo ba di išang gona e sepela bjang. Re na le komiti e nngwe ye re e dirileng re e bitša Gauteng Transport Authority ye e leng gore le bo masepala ba dula mo godimo ga yona. Mmereko wa yona ke go fediša go se sepediše ditaba gabotse tša transport magareng ga dimasepala le rena ba province. Bjanong taba yeo re tlo e lokiša ya gore di-transport especially tšona dipase tša dimasepala, dipase tšeo di patelang ke province di šomišane gabotse. Re bone mo Ekurhuleni go ile go ba le problem ko Brakpan mo ba Ekurhuleni ba ileng ba ntšha dipase tša bona tše di be di patela ke province. HOD o le boditše gore dipase tšeo ba re di buile, ke tshepa gore ke nnete di buile. Okay, re tla re checka ba re ga di a boa. Okay, empa se se diragalang se segolo ke se the whole province ya Gauteng go na le dipoledišano tša mmušo le ba di-company tša dipase tše di patelang ke province tše e leng gore re ile o lebelela gore go na le mafelo a mantši a e leng gore baotledi ba dipase ba tlogetše ga ba sa šoma mo weng, ba re ga ba dire tšhelete ba berekela ditshenyagalelo fela. Bjanong re nyako dula fase le bona re bolele gore na ka gore le di-petrole di ile godimo mafelo ao ba re ga ba kgone gore ba dire tšhelete ba tlogetše go bereka mo ga ba sa bereka. Bontši bja leneng ka fa mothala le tla tseba gore o ka re patko a e se gona mo Ekurhuleni e be gona kgale e tšwele e tsamaile le mafelong a mangwe. Bjanong ba re ga ba dire tšhelete mo ba tlogetše mafelo ao. Dipoledišano tšeo tša rena le bona ba di-company ka moka ga bona di ilo thoma ka kgwedi ya September. Re boledišane re kwane ka di-price le mafelo mo dipase di swantšeng di ye gona, re kwane le ba dimasepala ka dipase tša bona. So taba yeo ya dipase le rena ya re tshwenya. Dipoledišano tša rena ka September ke a tshepa di tla fela, re tla lefa di-report gore na dilo di tlo sepela bjang. So taba ya dipase re a ilokiša kgwedi ya September re tla ba re boledišana le bona, re thoma dikontraka tše diswa ebile re kgontišiša gore go ba le batho ba baswa ba ba tsenang mo businessing ya transport ya dipase. E se ka no ba batho ba le ba kgale-kgale ba kgale ba le mo go swantse go tsene baswa bomme bjalo le bjalo le bjalo batho le bona ba be gona mo dilong tša di-bus so yeo re a ilokiša yeo go na le ntate o boletše ka about the taxis and the communities. I'm not sure if I heard the area you are referring to. It's Benoni. Okay. Can I commit that we will talk with the Benoni taxi associations and organize with the councillors so that there can be better discussions and a better working relationship between the taxi associations and the community members. So we will engage the associations. Yeah. Re tla bolela le bona ba the association and re tla kgontišiša gore when there are those discussions, the discussions take place in a very peaceful, respectful, and in an orderly manner. Because ra ba tseba batho ba di-taxi gore nako e nngwe ga ba hlomphe banamedi le badudi. Bjano, we will make sure that those negotiations happen properly. Thank you very much. Ke tla o fetiša le molaetša go batho ba di-taxi re phela re bolela le bona gore ga ba hlomphe setšhaba, ga ba hlomphe banamedi, ga ba hlomphe bomme, ga ba hlomphe bana, ga ba hlomphe batho ba bagolo. And a ke tse gore batho ba di-taxi ba gona mona ge e le gore ba gona nke re ba bone ba be e le gore ba kwa molaetša o wa gore ga ba hlomphe di-community ke ba le ba gona mola and ke a leboge ke nagana gore o tla se bea fase ntate. Thank you very much ba gona le theeleditše le a kwa gore badudi ba reng. Thank you. Okay. Now the other issue. Okay, re re kwaneng polelo ye nngwe ye e bileng gona ke ya EPWP. Ntate o boletše gore program ya expanded public works program ga e bereke gabotse go kaone mmušo o tle ka plan ye nngwe gape. Rena re le department ya transport re go kwele empa ba committee le bona ke ba ba go kwele e tla nyaka gore mmušo wa province le mmušo wa ko godimo wa national go change policy gore mohlomongwe go tliwe ka mokgwa o mobotse wa gore na EPWP e ka bereka bokaone jwang. Bjalong re go kwele yeo le rena re a tseba gore o ka se be wa re go motho wa re e re be re go file se sengwe mo ka moraga ngwaga ba ra wa boela ka thiko motho la o ya kae tlala e boa ka gae. So yeo le rena re a go kwa yeo le rena re a e tseba re tla boledišana le ba department tša ko godimo ka gore ke bona ba dirang policy ya mmušo re ba fihlišetše molaetša o le rena ya re tshwenya. Ye nngwe gape ye e botšišitšweng ke taba ya batho bao ba agileng mekhukhu ya bona mo go sepelang terene. O botšišitše gore na plane ke eng. Bjanong ke rata gore mo go wena ke re terene yeo go bolelwang ka yona badudi ke diterene tša Prasa Metro Rail ke tšona tše e leng gore ka gore ke a tseba Gautrain ga e go mo mafelo a mantši mo. Bjalong le tša Transnet. Bjalong rena re na le di-meeting le Minister Fikile Mbalula re le di-MEC re a boledišana ka taba tše. Go ka lebelela diterene ba di butši ka mo Atteridgeville, diterene ba di butši ka mo Soshanguve, di a bulwa mafelo a mangwe empa ga ba tla ba fihla mafelong ka moka ga ona. Empa re tla fetiša molaetša gore na le reng ka badudi batho bao ba agileng mo godimo ga rail line. Re tla fihliša molaetša mo go bona ka gore rena re le province ga rena bokana mo gore ka bolela bokae mo godimo ga taba tša Prasa. Rena ya mo provinceng ye e leng gore ke ya rena mo provinceng ke Gautrain. Empa ba National Minister Mbalula re a šomišana se segolo gore re mo fitišetše molaetša gore I'm sure ga se mo lefelong la lena fela gore na go tlo diragalang ka batho bao. And ke tshepa gore tlo nyaka le department ya human settlement gore ba thuše baagi bao ka gore a se tabe e botse gore batho ba dule mo go beng go fetang terene gona. So ke a tshepa eo re tlhalositse gore re tla fetiša molaetša pele. Go na le nngwe gape ya di SMMEs, borakgwebo ba bannyane ba bontšha mo gore o ka re ga ba supportiwe gabotse, ga ba fiwe thekgo e botse. The driving school wa e registera, wa e thoma, ke no fa molaetša o bo o file. Empa mo Gauteng nna ke ile ka tla mo go na le holo e nngwe ka mo a Sekgole, I hope ra ke confuse mafelo, mo re ileng ra tlo fa report back gore go na le molaotheo mo Gauteng o bitswang Township Economy Development Act. A ke tsebe gore batho ba o tsebana, o phasitswe ke Premier David Makhura. Molao o re mmušo wa Gauteng o swantse o thuše badudi ko makeišeneng ba ba nang le dikgwebo tše tša bona le bao ba nyakang go thoma dikgwebo. Go phasitswe molao o reng batho ba tla thušiwa bjang. Bjanong di-departmente ka moka ga tšona di eteletše pele ke department ya Comrade Parkstau. Ba swantse re thome go implementa molao o wa gore na borakgwebo ko makeišeneng ba tlo thušiwa bjang. Bjanong re na le lona lenaneo la gore batho ba thušiwe ka dikgwebo tša bona mo makeišeneng. Taba ye ke e kgolo ke ya bohlokwa. That is why go phasitswe molao gore go ska no bolelwa ka di-support ya di-businesses ko makeišeneng re sa bone gore go diragala eng. Masepala, mmušo wa province re swantse re thekge batho mo makeišeneng ba ba lekang gore ba itirele dikgwebo tša bona. Bjalong taba yeo molao wa re gapeletša tla swanela kore le yona re ilokiše. Go na le mme o boletše ka o ka re ke mokwele gabotse go na le mathata ko Ward 96. Ebile o ka re o rile go na le petitions e ba išitšeng ko petitions committee. Nna ke be ke tla kgopela gore di-officials tša rena ba gona mo ba kgopele petition e la go mme ola re ye ko legislature ro e checka a re fe yona gona bjalong or go sasa le di-arrangement re kreye petition eo re checke le ba legislature ge e le re rutlile di-officing tša rena ka Sepedi ngwana poša diraga a bolawe a re fe yona gape ro kgontišiša le ko legislature gore na petition eo e gona re arabe ka go ngwala ka gore community e ngwadile le rena re arabe ka go ngwala e ska ba taba gore mamabolo o rile mamabolo gare ka gore nako e nngwe ge re bolela o kry-a re kwana mare re sa kwane gabotse. Bjalong ke tlo kgopela gore mme ola ga re fe petition so that re lebelele di-issue ka moka tšeo di le mo petitioneng re mo arabe gabotse. O boletše ka taba ya K58 ifa ke poši re tla e araba le yona mo petitioneng ya gage. Taba ya di-storm water re mo kwele empa ga re fe petitione re mo ngwalele re arabe taba ya gage re tla checka le ko legislature gore na di sepela bjang. Se sengwe gape se ke ratang go tseba kore go sebelela kore mo tsakane le mafelo a mangwe ba re ke tsa kwa Duza a ke tsebe gore ke e bolela gabotse na. Go na le di-counselara ba ba ka bolelang gore re na le program e re bitsang Smart Mobility Weekends. Re bereka ka di-weekend Saturday le Sunday re ile ra tla ra lokiša di-pothole mo ke tloga ke tlile nna ka bonna ebile re be re berekiša yona lefelo le go lokiša di-pothole. Re tloga re tlhakana mo re ya ko di-communityng re boya gape re kopane gona mo re tšhaiše re le gona mo. Bjalong ge e le gore go na le lefelo leo go nyakegang gore re lokiše di-pothole leo le go nyakegang gore re kgathe mabjang mme o le a boletšeng ka taba tša di-pothole ebile ke ba babedi. Nna ne ke kgopela gore ba re fe tšona re lokiša ditsela tša province mara ge re bereka ka Saturday Sunday re thekga le ditsela tša dimasepala. Bjanong a ke nyako dira di-promise ga ba re fe lefelo leo ba reng go na le mathata a di-pothole di-official tša rena ba gona o ka re ngwalela note wa no e ngwala ka letsogo wa re re gopela le re phethele di-pothole mo mafilong a re dutse mo tafola ke ba ba ka mo pele o no ya ba fa notice eo gore e tlang le re lokišetse ditsela mo mafelo a itseng re tla re di lokiša re tlile mo re ka boya gape go ba lefelong le lengwe le e leng gore le ka no ba le tshwenya re tle re lokiše di-pothole tšeo so ke kwele ba re go bile le matšhi ko Jamestown a go ba le reply ya taba dipase I'm sure yeo ke šetše ke boletše ka yona gore re ile o boledišana le borra dipase kgwedi ya September re tla lokiša ditaba tšeo taba ya crime ya diapolo ya mabone ke tlo gopela ba komiti gore ba tšee taba ba e fe dikomiti tše ba berekišanang le tšona mo Ekurhuleni ka gore re a tseba gore taba ya electricity supply le mabone mo distrateng ke taba ya masepala bjanong le rena re tla bolela le MMC ngobeze gore ka meeting wa portfolio committee re hweditše taba ya gore go nyakega di street lights di lokišiwe gore go lwantšhiwe taba ya crime I'm sure le yona re tla e lokiša tše dingwe nka no re mo go badudi ka reng re di ngwadile re di kwele re tla di lebelela le bona ba di ngwadile ba komiti taba ya scholar transport taba ya scholar transport e re ke e tlhalose ka mokgwa o scholar transport e gabedi go na le scholar transport e ranang ke tendera ya department ya basic education e leng ya MEC Panyaza Lesufi ba na le dikontraka tšeo ba di ntšhitšeng tša gore batho ba rwale bana ba sekolo ka scholar transport yeo e rana ke department ya MEC Lesufi empa ka gore na re transport re tla re bolela le yena gore mo ke tsakane ke a tsepa seboledi se be se bolela ka tsakane re tla re bolela le yena gore ba re go shota scholar transport go ntšha tender o ka re mafelo a tsakane ga wa covera gabotse MEC e really district department e bolele le badudi gore na taba ya scholar transport mo e bereka bjang then go na le Langerville okay no let me correct it okay so yeo ke tender e ranang ke MEC Lesufi ke bona ba appointang di-bus company tšeo tše di dirang scholar transport ya bobedi scholar transport ke e batswadi bona ba kgethang ka bo bona ba re bana ba rena ba tla namela koloi yeo ga e tsamaelane le yeo MEC Lesufi ga a kgethi batho gore bana ba sekolo ba tla namela ka mo batswadi ba ke kgetha ba kwana ba appointa motho wa scholar transport gore o tla iša bana sekolong yeo rena department mmere kwa rena ko bona gore ba na le dipampiri tša gore ba rane scholar transport maphodisa a swantše o make sure ya gore ga ba tsamaye mo tseleng ba sena di-permit a ba laiše overload ba latela molao so yeo e mo matsogong a department ya transport ke rena re swantšeng gore re bereke le maphodisa go kgontišiša gore batho bao ba rwalang bana koloi tša bona di mo tseleng ba na le dipampiri ba reila go ya ka molao bjanong yeo e mo departmenteng ya rena ya ditendera e ko MEC Lesufi re tla bolela le yona ka ena re tla re mo tlhalosetša yona gore Langerville go na le mathata a gore o ka re ga o ba tlhokomele mo scholar transport so yeuweng ke a le tshepiša re tla e fetišetša go MEC Lesufi le ba committee chair it will be important to take this matter to the portfolio committee on education so that they can also do oversight and bring forward the matter of Langerville. I think it will be good to take it to your colleagues in the portfolio committee on education. Irinki itlogele gona mo ka rona ko engwe ka sepedi ba re ditaba ga di fele go fela nako bjanong re lekile mo re ka lekang gona mo re sa lekang gona gabotse bjale ka ge ke boletše ka sepedi sa gešo ngwana phoša dira ga a thuntšhiwe ko di-taxi nako engwe ba mo ntšhetša sethunya empa mo re kgopela gore le ska lwa le yena re ke bušetše marapo go modulasetulo a tšwele pele ka meeting.
Before I take, well, MEC, can I just check with you? What is your time like? Can we take another 5 hands? Okay. Before I do that, let me, Member Kikana just wants to quickly say something, and then I'm going to take 5 hands. Member Kikana?
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. No, I wanted to amplify the question that was raised by Ntate Bafana wa ko Ward 81 MEC. Okaru away therapy question high because he was saying they have been promised a railway line in their area. Yeah, and it has not been happening to an extent that now the road reserve has been occupied by people who have built in the road in the rail reserve. What 81? Kintate Bafana, una bua mo wa ko Ward 81, yes. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to take, no, I'm unfortunately going to take this side. 5 hands only, all right? So what I want to try and do, there's a person at the back there in the gray and the white hat. Please come to the front. That's number 1. I want to take this lady right here in the black top, number 2. And then I'm going to take this man here. This, in front of you, has he got his hand up? No, okay. I'll take a gentleman with a gray top, number 3. Over here. And then I'm going to take that young man over there with a big smile, number 4. And then I'm going to take the lady in front here. Yeah. No, hang on. Where am I looking? Just hang on. Let me just 2 I'll take. All right. The gentleman in the brown, the light brown top. That's number 5. Is it? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll take 1 more. There we go. That's it. There we are. Okay. Both of you can go up. Can I ask you to be very short so that the MEC can respond as well before he goes? How many have we got here? 1, 5. There's a 6th person, so we've got 6 hands. Okay, first person, 3 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Sanibonani. Mangusindilwa kaNdamane ngibuya e108 eKatlehong. Ngithanda ukreiterate certain things ebezikhulunywa i-community at this current stage. Sine challenge enkulu e108, not only 108 from iKatlehong as a whole, because namanje asikakabi nama-train. That's the main problem esinayo due to the fact yokuthi we can see ukuthi yonke into iyakhuphuka at this current stage in terms of transportation. We also have a situation which is a waiting day to 108. Asinayo informal taxi rank whereby kune formal taxi rank structure. Secondly, sinayo a problem yokuthi each and everywhere la kunamanzi khona a blockage, more especially Abraham Mhlophe Primary School. You go to a block C also. Sine challenge whereby kunamanzi la amakhona etrateni, where else is now a train at the current stage. We also have a situation at block E whereby asinazo ikontiri, at block F you also don't have ikontiri endaweni ezifana nalezo. Bese ngathokozela ukuthi i-infrastructure ize izosivakashela izokhona ukubona ama situations esihlanu esibhekane nawo. Kune location eceda ukuyenzwa kumanje which is i-block G. Sibiza ema-toilet. Akunayo i-electricity, akunayo i-infrastructure e-proper for bona. Abantu abahlala emikhukhwini bese ngathokozela ukuthi nize nizobuye nibone ukuthi kwenzakalani within that very same space. Bengingajabulela ukuthi ubaba uMamabulu abhekisise indaba yani ye-railway. It is of paramount and of importance ukuthi i-railway ibuye within the region ye-Ekurhuleni, because it's trouble kithi when it comes to a situation ukuthi awunamali yokuhamba uyohekeza but unayo imali yokuthi 50 rand 100 rand yokuthenga i-train ticket on a monthly basis or a weekly basis mara akhona ukunyakaza.
Sanibonani, igama lami nguKidiboni Ndlovu, ohlala eWard 81. I-committee yamabhasi, abagibeli bamabhasi. Bengithi baba Mabulo uzothi kusasa amabhasi ayaqala. Bese ngijabula lokhu. Ngendlela ngine stress ngakhona. Ngisho irent yaseGruleni angikhona nokuyibhadala. Because ubaba uAlco samtshela ukuthi sicela ukuthi basenzele ukuthi iBBC ibe iqhubeka le IC 56 ibe isiqhubekisa isise emsebenzini. So sinenkinga eTsakane ikwatsaduza, but iTsakane sine problem because sine one mode transport i-taxi lesi sabayo namhlanje uyigibela singabomama ngoba siyarojwa khona emateksini uthi ugibelile kanti kukhona igebengu phakathi. So ibhasi ibikwazi ukuthi isithathe isise emsebenzini. Amateksi lawa awafiki at all la thina siya khona. Asishiya khona esicelayo siyacela because number one, nisnikeze ipromise yokuthi nge 60 days nizohlangana nathi. Manje senithi September, asazi ke manje ukuthi kahle hle sesiphelelwe ithemba. Okunye bengicela ukuthi kube ne one city one bus. Kule memorandum sasithi one bus. Ibus lethu alingahambi emini kuphela. Alhambe nasemini nasekuseni kube kanjalo because masithi siyala ni speed up i-process yokuthi nisilethele amabhasi abuye back eTsakane kwatsaduza sibuyele after 22 years asana amabhasi mara 22 years besihamba ngamabhasi. Siyacela wabuye amabhasi.
Thank you. Igama lami ngubafana wakamasinga. MEC, I've got a very serious concern. I wish that the department can intervene on this one. Here in Tsakane, we've got bullies. Those are the taxi drivers. I'm not even so sure whether they collude with the taxi owners. When we bought the e-hailing services, when we utilize the e-hailing services to the mall, they are not allowed to pick us up, and yet we are using our own money. Can you please intervene? Because for me, to use Bolt or Uber, Bangse Mall, Belebayong Tate police station, they are not allowed to take us Lape Mall. And I feel like my rights are being violated one way or the other. It's a can. Yes, we've got a serious challenge. Ngoba abafuni kube namaphela and emangithenga grocery running a mall. At least the bolting touching bege gating. These taxis are no bangishiya lekten. And then another thing, I would like to raise the issue yes extension 6. It's a Kanelangaville. Well, there are no roads. Can you please try and speed up the process so that that area can at least have one tar road there, at least. That can be some sort of a main road. Thank you.
Thank you very much. MEC, Chairman, Portfolio Committee, observers, all protocol observed. My name is George Ridley. MEC, thank you very much for what you're doing over weekends. That's number one. But however, I want to bring to your attention that all these crack sealing and pothole fillings are done. And I want to remind you that the rainy season is upon us. The quality of work that is done needs a lot to be desired. Because you will fill the potholes. 2 days, 3 days later, it's open again. And that tells us that the people that are fixing these things are not really doing any quality work. So if there is an oversight to be done, we would prefer the whole work to be inspected. That's number one. Number two, once you come on the Heidelberg Road into Gelukdal Road, the road is so overcrowded because we've got Borey industrial side there. There are trucks moving in there. We've done a road from the Shell garage into nowhere. We were promised that there will be a continuation of the road so that the industrial side, all the trucks can use that road there and ease the congestion. Because everybody that comes from Tsakani must go through to Gelukdal, to the Heidelberg Road, to the N17. So that is a problem. And the robots are forever not working. MEC, the biggest concern is Extension 3 in Gelukdal. That houses were built there. The place is very rocky. There is not one road, only the entrance there. If you want to go there, you drive like you are drunk. You've got to dodge and try and get into the township by all means. It is very, very bad. People with vehicles there cannot really drive in that area. So even if you can just scrape it, just scrape the roads and make it drivable. Right now it is so bad, and I'm afraid when the rain comes, things are even gonna get worse. In Extension 2 in Gelukdal, there is a road that was done, it's very good. But once you get into the side roads, I know it is very muddy. Cars get stuck. And the criminals are taking advantage of that because once you are stuck, you get hijacked anytime. So please, MEC, if you can look into that few issues that I've raised, we will appreciate it very much. As I said, the rainy season is upon us. Those potholes needs to be supervised and checked if it's done correctly. Because 2 days, it's open again. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, honorable members. Also, good afternoon. Can you hear me? All right. Good afternoon, the CEO from Gauteng, Mama Bola, and the community members at large. Sanbonani, Ninjani, Sapil. I'd like to thank particularly the Gauteng legislature for bringing such meetings to the people. I think it's very important because sometimes we watch these things over the news and you don't get to understand the sense of whatever is happening. So when you bring it close in this sense, you can understand the proceedings behind. First of all, I'd like to ask the CEO of Gauteng that seeing Gauteng being established, it's a great mode of transportation. However, with the plus or minus 8 years, when you look at the turnover, the financial profits of Gauteng, you'd see it's been positive over the years, and also looking at the profit margins. Are there any, in your future plans, maybe ways and ideas of creating and also establishing into other provinces, and also maybe trying to move in other sectors within Gauteng in particular? Because it's only mainly around Pretoria and via Johannesburg, but in other areas it's not there. I know that you guys have also got your specific target market that you guys are segmenting, but are we saying it's only excluded for a few wealthy people? What about the rest of the people? Can't you maybe, perhaps maybe create another mode of transport that is similar to Gauteng, but that can accommodate other less or average South Africans, people that are simply just like me. So I think that would be very good. Because also looking at your turnover, I believe that you guys are financially able to, put it and move on and increase it to other markets as well. Of course, we do take into consideration COVID-19 has affected everyone, but prior to that, I think you guys would be able to move it into other provinces. HOD and also MEC. When you look at, the infrastructure of the entire country, in particular with regards to transport and the roads, it's not in a good state. Like, for instance, the main roads in this country that we're mostly using were established by the previous system. We haven't seen, particularly the current government trying to establish bigger main roads. So what are you guys doing about that? It's really a challenge. What you've mainly been doing and also failing in that area is we've been trying to maintain the roads, but in some areas we're also failing because we're still consistently having potholes that are constantly every now and then having to be fixed. I'm also worried and I've got a concern with the taxi industry. Taxi industry is the billion rand industry. It generates a lot of money. Is there a way that you can at least maybe formalize it to be more structured and try to create some bit of employment within that sector? Because I believe you can, provided you give yourself guys time and money. So I think you can do that as well. And it's really challenging because we don't see how they're contributing to the community wherever the taxi industry is situated in any area. People, half the time, they're not benefiting. So we'd like to see that happening. And also, lastly, from where I come from Katlehong, Ward 108. We don't have a railway system, network transport, that connects to these other areas. It's only situated, lastly, in another township called Ramkunupi. We'd also like to see it moving furtherwards, Ramkunupi towards Zonke site and Vosloorus and also Sandras to that area, coming back to connect towards Germiston and Johannesburg as well. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon to everyone. All protocol observed. MMC chairperson and the panel. One thing that puzzles me is we give in a lot of petitions for speed humps. Nothing comes of it. But when we start building our own speed humps to protect our very own, the government is quick to come and to take it off. So please look at this petitions with the petitions portfolio and committee. I would just like to confirm what is the standard width of roads. Because if you look at some of the roads in Gelukstad and Tsakani, it's just enough space for one vehicle to drive on it. Most of the times the vehicle has to drive on the sidewalks where the other people has to walk. Some of the houses that are on 4 ways and T-junctions, the walls are built on the roads so that you cannot see the oncoming traffic. Who needs to investigate that? Roads don't have proper draining systems in the townships. Water stands there for days after it has rained. Our ancestors are not resting in peace because the graveyards is in a mess. Grass is not being cut on time. So please look at that. The graveyards, they don't cut the grass. It grows and people can fitla themselves in there and commit crime. Roads in townships, that was a general complaint that we had. The taxi ranks in Pitfontein, you just had one from Tsakani, this is one from Pitfontein, where the taxi association does not allow the Uber and the Bolts to operate freely. Railway transport, there is service stands where the railway transports are supposed to be, and that is also in Pitfontein. Buses from the north to the east, they need to travel between Kempton Park and Benoni for the elderly. The age limit for EPWP, we also need to look at that because we exclude people that have good work ethics from a certain age. The township economic development for informal settlements, mostly they take on foreign nationals instead of South African citizens. Street lights, can we please look at making them solar? And that is from Ward 96 and Ward 82. I thank you and I submit.
No, thank you very much. And I want to just say thank you to those who've asked questions. Some of you have been very short and to the point. We appreciate it. Before I hand over to you, MEC, when I arrived here this morning, and I'm not going to name the person, when I arrived here this morning, I was asked, why are you as a committee wasting your time coming here? Why are you wasting money coming here? And this person said to me, these people don't know what this committee is about. They don't understand anything. And I was quite angry about it. I was quite irritated. Unfortunately, that person is no longer here. But the gentleman over there in the light in that brown top, yeah, when you spoke just now, you actually said, thank you for coming here. Thank you for coming here to enable us to understand the work of the legislature. And I must say that has actually given me satisfaction that as a committee, we made the right decision to come here. We made the right decision. If that person was still here, I would have liked him to have heard your applause because I was told straight, you've wasted our time coming here. And we haven't wasted our time because when I've listened to the questions here, every single person here understands what roads and transport is about. And there's no ways that we can be wasting our time coming here. I thought I should raise it because I've been sitting here, I've been quite angry. But I can tell you when I leave this meeting, I'm going to call that person and going to tell him that the message that comes from here is that this committee didn't waste its time coming here. So I thought I should just raise that. MEC, on that note, let me hand over to you. And then I will respond on the issue of Tsakani not being informed about this meeting. And I also want to talk about petitions as well. But let me hand over to you, MEC.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Chair. Chairperson says, "Otabulela kayona." So, around the petitions, we will not touch it. Issues about Baobabulating Katabaya training, like the last part one speaker, the CEO of Gautrain will speak to that, and I'll ask him also to just assure you that we're working with PRASA to attend to the problems at the train. But nesiki yarabile tabaya di train. Gore di train Minister Mpula ke tsamaile le ena le kwa Tredgeville. Go budiwa di train mo di be di sa tsamaye gona, especially since di tswalelwa ka lebaka la COVID-19 le mo di be di seyo before COVID-19. So ke be ke tshetse ke yarabile eo ya gore re tla bolela le ena wa tseba gore di train di a nyakega ko makeisheneng. So ke be ke tshetse ke yarabile eo ya gore re tla boledishana le ministera ka taba ya gore di train di bulwe mo Gauteng di train di a nyakega, batho ba nyaka di train di tsamaye. Gape le taba ya di bus, ge re bolela nnete ke be ke tshetse ke yarabile le yona gore le rena ya re tshwenya ga se lena fela le tshwenyang, empa ra bontšha gore re swantse re boledišane le batho ba di bus ka baka la gore gona bjalong le ge re ka re bus e tle go sasa ba ka se operate ko because ba re price ko tlase, bona ga ba dire tšhelete ba tlo itlogela pleke eo. Bjalong that's why re swantse re boledišane le bona pele gore re kwane ka go adjusta di price, ba ska iša di price ko godimo. Mmušo o bolele le bona gore di bus di be affordable ka baka la gore di bus di a subsidiziwa ke mmušo. Di taxi ga di kry subsidy. Ke ka lebaka leo go na le mathata ka gore le bona ba isha di price ba sa boledišane le rena ba ra ba kry subsidy empa e ya di-bus ye re swantse re bolele le bona pele gore re ska tliša bus ka osane bus a ego so e ya di-bus ba go bolela nnete ke be ke šetše ke e boletše gore and a ke a re 2 months ke rile re boledišane le bona kgwedi ya September ke mka re tla re ge re feditše ra allocata di-bus go ya le ka mokgwa di nyakegang ka gona le go ya gore na tšhelete ya mmušo ke e ka kang ye e tla kgonang gore e subsidize mafelo ao a nyakang di-bus so yeo le yona ke be ke šetše ke e arabile I'm sure ba ba e botšišitšeng la bobedi ba šetše ba no e gatelela mara Chair, the issue about buses we have answered it taba ya ntwa ya di-taxi le batho ba e-hailing le ba di-meter taxi yeo ke nnete yeo batho ba di-taxi ba lwa le batho ba di-metera ga se mo fela Gauteng ye ka moka ga yona le mafelo a mangwe e se mo Gauteng mo go nang le e-hailing bora di-taxi ga ba nyake batho ba e-hailing ba re ba ba tšeela kgwebo and re a tseba gore batho ba di-taxi ga ba lwantše ba e-hailing fela ge o ka bana le motho o tsamayang le yena frogo o phela o motšea o ba fa lift ya go Amerikong re a tseba gore batho ba di-taxi ba lwantšha le bona di-squat tša di-taxi ba emiša batho ba ba tšeela tšhelete ba re o sa patele tšhelete ya gore koloi ya go a e tsamaye bjanong taba ya dintwa ka mogare ga di-taxi le ka mokgwa batho ba di-taxi ba solva mathata a bona ka gona gantši ka sethunya le ka ntwa ke ntho eo re lebelelaneng le yona badudi batho ba di-taxi ke phela ke ba botša gore ba ka se be ba solva mathata a bona ka sethunya fela ebile ga ba swanele o berekiša sethunya go solva mathata a bona bjanong yeo re busy le ba maphodisa I can tell you ba bantši ba bona ba di-squat tša di-taxi ba swariwa for yona ntho e ya gore ba lwantšhe batho ke a e a dumelelwa ga e mo molaong ke botsotsi taba ya gore batho ba di-taxi ba itšeele molao mo matsogong a bona ga e mo molaong ga ya dumelelwa it's criminal gore o sware motho koloi ya gage o mo tšeele koloi ya gage batho ba di-taxi ba itšeela molao mo matsogong a bona ba ropa batho ditšhelete tša bona banong yeo e tlogelele mmušo re tla e lokiša ga e ya dumelelwa gore batho ba šomiše boganka gore ba rarolle mathata a bona a beng gona I used to tell the leadership of the taxi industry I hope you can hear me very soon go tlo bana le dikoloi tše e leng gore di tšea batho go sena driver ka mogare dikoloi tše di bitšwang di-driverless cars di etla a gona sethunya se se tlo berekang mo ka gore o tla thunya bjang e tlo bereka jwang a gona nkabi e tla kitimišang a gona nkabi e tla kitimišang koloi di etla and a re bolele mengwaga e mentšhine bjalong batho ba di-taxi ba swantše ba ithute gore ge go na le diphetogo ba boledišane le rena re bone gore ba ka dira bjang le bona ga ba tsene mo businesseng yeo ya e-hailing le bona ba be gona go feta gore bona ba no re ba tshepile go berekiša boganka bjanong re a ba ruta re bolela le bona empa le a tseba gore culture ya dintwa mo di-taxing e thomile kwa morago kgale-kgale bjanong re leka go e lokiša ka go boledišana le bona re tla e lokiša taba ya go šomiša boganka go šomiša dithunya diplayano dintwa mo di-taxing so yeo e tlogelele mmušo le maphodisa re tla e lokiša a gona motho a swantšeng a itšeele molao mo matsogong a gage so ke kgopela gore e ya di mathata a di Uber, Bolt or e-hailing le tlogelele rena yeo now the issues tša the pothole ke tlo kgopela HOD that you brief them about the pothole app where can they report the problems on the road so that we can come and fix them so eo HOD o tla bolela ka yona Honali, the last speaker, I saw a document. He was reading lot of issues from a document. If you don't mind, can you share with us that document? I think we will appreciate your document. The team in front, if you can give, you already have it. Oh, okay. We will respond to that. So, the issues about congestion, the quality of roads. Yes, I want to respond to this one. This one, I must speak about it here. Ge re lokisha ditsela mo mebileng, ke nnete gore mošomo o diriwang moo gantši re thiba tsela, pula yana, tselela e boetše mo e be e le gona pele. Yeo taba ke nnete yeo. That issue, the person who raised it is true. We do have a problem of quality of our work. So what we are doing, just for you to know, we have gone to an institution called CSIR, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. Gore ba re thushe ka method o mo botse, best methods on how to fix potholes on the roads so that they can last for longer. So I don't want that point, I just want to acknowledge it. It's true, it's worrying us. We fix same pothole every day. I can see it because I do it myself. So the issue of the methods of fixing the road and the quality of that work is absolutely true. We will attend to that one, we are working on it. So that one, I just wanted to confirm that it is a problem to us, and otherwise we are looking at it. Chair, if I meet my premier late, they will ask me to step aside. So I am, unless renka skopane le mo premier ka nako ya nyakang ka yona, ba tlo re MEC a emele ka thiko. Ba e bitsa step aside. E boima. E boima ntwe ba e bitsa step aside. Baanong ke be ke gopela ka tlhompho le boikokobetso gore e reng ko bona legoa ka gore go nyatša legoa go swana le go nyatša kgoši. Go nyaditše kgoši ka segagešo ko namile o swantše o tloge mo lefaseng la gage. Baanong ga ke nyatše holo ke nopia le nna re na le magoa ba re biditše. Nako e nngwe o kry-a ba go swaretše molaetša wa gore o ka no se o tsebeng. Baanong go kaone ke se ka tšwela pele mo ke sa tsebe gore molaetša o reng kua. O ka kry-a le gore molaetša wa gona le ona o na le tša ona. Baanong Chair, can you please recuse me? The HOD will continue to answer questions. And yourselves, and you can note the issues. Thank you very much. E reng ke le lebogeng, re a leboga, thank you. Le šale gabotse. Motho wa ka ga a boga a laele, ga a ka laela a ka sa boya. Baanong re tla boya tšatši le lengwe. Thank you very much. HOD?
Now, MEC, thank you very much for being here with us. And thank you very much for staying a bit longer to answer questions. We appreciate that. And travel safely. Thanks, MEC. HOD, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. We have heard all the concerns relating to the roads, Chair. What we will do, we received a list of the roads that was sent to us. The extension 2, extension 3, we also have the Tsakani and Langeville. The areas relating to the drainage systems, there is parts, Chairperson, that we need to discuss with the Ekurhuleni municipality, which we will do. Also the street lights and also the cemeteries. But what we will do as a department, we do have a regional office in Benoni that's looking after potholes and doing some work on provincial roads. We will get them to start looking at the areas that we must focus on. We will be convening a forum where the MEC and the MMCs will come together, and we will share the complaints with the Ekurhuleni municipality so that we can get together and then look at how we're going to resolve the problem. Some of the areas needs to be fixed by the municipality. We are not saying as a provincial government we are not doing anything, but we just feel that as a department in the Ekurhuleni municipality, we need to work together to fix that. So we have taken note of all of that, including the petitions. About 3 weeks ago, we met with the legislature where they have handed us all the petitions. We're planning to respond to that, and also the commitments that we are making to implement what the communities have asked for. Chair, let me hand over to Gautrain just to respond to them, then I think we have concluded.
Thank you, HOD, and thank you for the question on Gautrain. Gautrain does not make a profit. Gautrain takes the money from the commuters and the government money and it spends it on maintaining the railway line and the services. And you're quite right, the person who asked the question, we've been hit very hard by COVID, but that has not stopped us from planning in terms of making the rail network, expanding it in the province. Now, the MEC asked us some 2 or 3 years ago to say, where can Gautrain go to next? So we have done the planning. I think it's maybe 150 more kilometers, which we are now doing the feasibility study for. The MEC then said, can we look at even going further and beyond that? So we are busy with that planning process, but we will never go outside of Gauteng. That's not our job. We are part of the provincial government. One of the challenges which we've got, and the speaker did raise it, is how do we make Gautrain more affordable? And that is where we are looking at different solutions to say, can there be some additional subsidy in terms of people who can't afford to use the train? I do not have the answers now, but we are doing those studies to make sure that with the expansions, we can make the Gautrain more affordable and more accessible to people. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much to the HOD and thank you very much to the CEO of Gautrain. I wanted to just touch on 2 matters that were raised. The one relates to the issue of petitions. And it's correct that what the HOD says is that the department has received a number of petitions from the Petition Standing Committee in the Gauteng legislature. However, the last gentleman who spoke, when you spoke, you mentioned that there's been a number of petitions about speed humps. Now, we will also ask, Stimbiso, I will also ask if you can speak to that gentleman just to get the details, because what we need to find out is whether those petitions were submitted to the municipality or whether they were submitted to the Gauteng legislature. If they were submitted to the municipality, then it's the municipality who needs to be taken to task as to why they are not responding. But if they've been submitted to the legislature, we will have to find out where are those petitions. So I just wanted to explain, because, for example, speed humps on municipal roads are dealt with by municipalities. But very often what communities do is they send those petitions to the legislature when the municipality has not responded to them at all. So we'll just need to get some clarity from you afterwards, and I'll ask Stembiso to talk to you, just so that we can understand where were those petitions sent to. So if they were sent to the legislature, we need to follow it up. But if they were sent to the municipality, well, then we will have to maybe engage with you. We'll also talk to some other councillors as well and ask them to find out where is that petition, what's actually happening. But we'll engage with you afterwards. So that's why I thought I should just explain. There is a difference as to where they've been sent, but we will engage with you afterwards, sir. The comment that was made about the fact that not enough people in Tsakani knew about today, we take note of that. We accept that comment, and we will probably look at coming back here. We will probably have to come back here so that when we come back here for another session like this, we can make sure that there are sufficient people in Tsakani who are made aware that the portfolio committee will be here. So I just wanted to say we take note of that comment, we accept that, and we will come back here for a second round. And when we do, we will make sure that there is sufficient communication with residents and key stakeholders in Tsakani. What I just wanted to say is that we've been going region by region, or municipal area by municipal area. And up until now, since last year, because you remember we came out of 2 years of COVID. So last year in November, we started in Tshwane, we've been to Sedibeng, we've been to the West Rand, we're here in Ekurhuleni, our next stop is Johannesburg. So what we will commit to doing, when we've gone to Joburg and held a similar session in Joburg, we'll come back here. And I'll make sure that the committee section focuses on that and takes a note of that. So after Johannesburg, we'll come back here to Tsakani and we'll make sure that there's sufficient notice, sufficient communication, that we can make sure we have a very big representation from Tsakani. I hope that will be all right. I hope you'll accept our apology. Nevertheless, we are very glad with the response that we've got here today and with those of you that have come today. We are very happy to have you here, but we'll come back here. So I hope you'll accept that from us. What I'm going to do quickly, Member Kekana just wants to say something. We have 2 more presentations that we need to deal with. The one presentation is on the Transport Infrastructure House, which we'll ask the HOD and his team to take us through briefly. We'll ask questions if we need to ask questions. And the last presentation relates to the issue of grass cutting on provincial roads in this area in particular. And it also talks a little bit about the role and the function of the Department of Roads and Transport's regional office here in Ekurhuleni. So, Member Kekana first, and then we'll hand over to the HOD.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I think my question is actually directed to yourself and the HOD in terms of the petitions. We were all in that meeting when the petitions were handed over to the various departments, when the Standing Committee on Petitions balkanized the petitions. So I just wanted to check with yourselves, Hore, since the handover of the petitions, what happened to them? Was the portfolio committee handed over the copies of those petitions? Because it's important that we are aware which petitions have been handed over to the Roads and Transport Department so that we are able to, as a portfolio committee, follow up on those petitions. But we can't follow up if we don't know which petitions have been handed over. So I just wanted to check if you have received those petitions. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Kekana. In fact, the committee has not received a list of those petitions, and we've raised it in the Standing Committee on Petitions. I'm a member of the Petitions Standing Committee in the legislature, and we've raised this to say that as committees, we've not received these petitions, or should I say, our committee sections have not received details of the number of petitions so that we can play a monitoring role. And that's a matter that the chair of the Standing Committee on Petitions has undertaken to make sure gets resolved. Because if we don't know what was handed over, we can't play that oversight role. So just to say that as the Portfolio Committee on Roads and Transport, we will be holding the department to account on a quarterly basis, and we'll be asking them to update us, Member Kekana, on how many petitions they've resolved, which ones they've resolved, how many are outstanding, etc., because they've been given a deadline of 2 months. From the day they were given those petitions, they've got 2 months in which to resolve all of those outstanding petitions. So just to indicate that we have raised it with the Standing Committee and asked them to please forward to our committee section a full list of the petitions that were handed over to the Department of Roads and Transport. I hope it answers that question. So, very briefly, we've got 2 more petitions, 2 more presentations, my apologies, that we need to deal with. The first is on the Transport Infrastructure House, and then the second is on the grass cutting and the role of the Provincial Department's office here in Ekurhuleni. HOD, can we hand over to you? I think on the Transport Infrastructure House, focus on the key points. We will know what to ask if we need to ask, but let's hand over to you, HOD, and then thereafter, if it's yourself or whoever can go straight into the presentation on grass cutting. Thanks, HOD.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Chairperson, I can ask the teams just to load the presentation on the Transport Infrastructure House. But Chairperson, just to give you a summary, the Transport Infrastructure House was established to give us an organizational sense of what the department is dealing with, but also track the reports, track the responses of various work streams. One of the key things that we need to track was the construction projects that we have in the department, but we also thought that as we are managing the Transport Infrastructure House, we cannot limit it to only infrastructure and construction delivery. What was important is what are those processes leading up to the Transport Infrastructure House, its successes, its efficiencies. So what we said as a department, we needed to establish a lot of online systems, online platforms to monitor projects. And for the period under review, Chair, we can say that the Transport Infrastructure House have played an invaluable part in making sure that the department delivers. It has also played a significant part in making sure that as a department, we can also track our performance. And as we track our performance, we can track it from all angles. We track the infrastructure, we track construction, we can also track our supply chain management processes. So that is very key for us, Chair. So Chair, from a performance perspective, it's just important to note some of the key things that was raised by the Portfolio Committee, the issues relating to vereniging, the issues relating to DLTCs. All of these projects form part of the Transport Infrastructure House, and we are monitoring that. We have now institutionalized weekly meetings between the various work streams. We have institutionalized a weekly meeting with the HOD, a weekly meeting with the MEC, where we particularly focus on targeted interventions. The work that we are doing with the compliance office, the directives insofar as interdicts, challenges, due diligence that we have, Chairperson, we can say that the Transport Infrastructure House have really played a significant part in that. We can also say that over the last quarter, we have finalized a number of the route determination projects. Some of those that should have been finalized in the very previous financial year, those has been finalized, and that is part of the planning stage. Chair, over the next few months, what we're going to do, we're going to look at how we can enhance the current Transport Infrastructure House systems. We will also look at what are other key projects that we need to add, what other value chain systems that we need to add, and how we can deliver on our mandate. We believe that if there is a legislature question on any project, if there's a legislature question on any road, we can just go back into the Transport Infrastructure House system and provide feedback to the legislature. The system is updated on a weekly basis, and on a Friday evening, the latest reports must come in. So at any given point in time, you have updated information that can be shared with everybody. There is also a number of successes, Chair, where we have completed infrastructure projects, and some of the successes we also share with you, but with all the successes that we have, Chair, there is also a number of challenges. And what the Transport Infrastructure House does is gives you that sense of challenges that you as a project team, you as a management team needs to work on. We look at each project from its starting date to its completion date, whether there's practical completion, whether there's partial completion, and what are those challenges are. So we can also say that the work that the department have done, it has not gone by without any challenges. But if you look at the construction projects, the P39, we look at the rehabilitation of roads, you can see some of the work that we are doing. We can see one of the key challenges in some of the rehabilitation projects is particularly the quality of workmanship. It means that as a department, we need to do regular inspections so that the work of contractors can be monitored. So Chair, from a design perspective, from a planning perspective, from a supply chain management perspective, and from a financial perspective, I think the department is at a stage where we can account for every project. We can account for the reasons why projects are not moving. And if there is reasons why projects are not moving, we can even account what's the rationale for that and how we plan to fix that. Importantly to note, Chair, we have reported that in the last meeting. We now received approval for the business case from the Provincial Treasury. We had a site meeting with contractors, which has been dealt with. The Portal Fix app, I think all the community members must just know, whilst we have received a list of roads where there's problems, we have as a department launched the Portal app where you can report the portal. On the app, it can be downloaded from the App Store. It can also be downloaded from Google Play. And where there is challenges, you can then report that. You will even receive feedback when the portal has been repaired and when it will be repaired. Then, Chairperson, the other facilities that we are dealing with, our in-house maintenance app, the in-house construction app, we're tracking the progress of our work on the ground on a daily basis. And whilst we are still challenges with some of the regional officers not reporting, we believe that, Chair, we have made the right decision to implement these tools, and it will also improve the monitoring and reporting of the department. Chair, that's the infrastructure house presentation. I don't know if the DDG and his team want to raise anything, but just at a high level, that's the progress on the transport infrastructure house, Chair. Do you want me to go on to the regional officers, Chair? I will be guided by you.
I think HOD, let's go on to the next presentation. Let's complete that, and then we'll check if members have got questions on either of them. Thanks.
Okay, no, Chair, thank you very much. Chair, the regional officers, let me, can I ask the colleagues to just load the presentation on the regional office? Chair, this regional office, it's situated in Benoni, the one that we have. And what this regional office is doing, it's dealing with road maintenance work that it's fulfilling in this particular area. The Tsakani, Geluksdal area all forms part of this particular regional office. And there is one thing that we as a department have allowed to happen over a number of years is that the capacity in these regional offices that has been eroded. We are starting a plan now where we want to appoint road workers in the different regional offices, and those will be taking place over the next 3 months. We need to appoint more road workers so that we as a department can respond to all the queries that we have here. So that just gives you a sense of what the scope of work is. Also, the regional office that's close by is responsible for the potholes in this area. So if you report those, you can track when those will be completed and when it will be finalized. We do have a turnaround time of about 72 hours. But MEC has reiterated with me that we need to establish rapid response teams. Where there's high risks of accidents, we need to act faster and we need to act quicker as a department. Just to give a sense there that in the past, over the last few months, we had a number of regional offices where there were very limited staff, regional managers were not appointed, and there's also the senior management in the department. We can say at this stage, Chairperson, that the process of finalizing all the regional managers has been finalized. We are just finalizing appointments, and throughout the process, we will also deal with the capacity of the different levels of staff in the regional office. The regional office is not dealing with significant or major road rehabilitation. Some of those, due to the capacity constraints, are being outsourced. We are just sharing with you there that currently the staff complement is 65. Looking at the number of work that we need to do in this area, it is very slim. So it's an area that we need to focus on and enhance. It just gives you the sense of what the plant and equipment is in the regional office. And as we continuously work, we would like to say that the work in the regional office is about re-graveling, pothole patching, grass cutting and litter picking, road marking, but then also guardrails. What we're looking at as the region, the construction team chairperson has tabled a proposal to the MEC and myself recently, where they want the construction unit to be expanded in the different regional offices where they can focus on major road works. Of course, whilst it is a step in the right direction, I don't think it's something that we can just focus on one regional office, which is the Heidelberg one. We probably want to see, when we look at building the capacity in the regional offices, that we expand in other areas as well, so that the business model that we want to deploy insofar as that is concerned, we will have a combination of private service providers that can look at employment of labor from the community, but then also the people that's working in the regional offices. Just on the next slide, we're just sharing with you the work that we are doing, but also currently, if you look at where we are in this particular area, only 43 potholes has been reported, and it just means that a lot of these potholes has not been reported. So we are urging the community to report those so that we can make sure that it is properly assigned and it can be repaired. So it just gives a sense of where the routine maintenance are, Chair, for this particular region. And what we need to do, you will see that for Benoni, you did not receive a lot, but taking from the floor, there is a lot of problems. But from the comments that we are receiving, Vereniging and Krugersdorp is the biggest areas that needs attention. Chair, this is just from a perspective of grass cutting. We currently have 2 contractors in this particular area that's servicing this entire region. And this is the work that they are currently doing. And it's some of the areas that we can focus on. We can decide which of the areas will be useful for us, Chair. And the 2 contractors are fully on board. They are working. And this is the other contractor where they are also working. Chair, we will be deciding, when we will be guided by yourselves. We have the team of the regional office here. When we decide which areas to visit to do an inspection on the grass cutting, we can follow them. They will direct us to the area where we can go to. But Chair, we can decide which area we're looking at, the R23 and the R554 from Carnival City. But looking at what you have on the screen, it's something that the portfolio committee can decide where we need to go to. On there, we're just showing what the work are that has been completed by the service providers so far. Most of the work is still currently underway. Sometimes the community might feel that we are taking very long, but it is work that has been outstanding for quite some time, Chair. I'm happy that we are making some significant inroads in some of the areas, and that just shows the amount of kilometers of work that has been completed. Chair, let me stop there. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, HOD. And to those of you that are here listening and listening to these 2 presentations, I just want to say this, that as the portfolio committee, we are placing a lot of attention and focus on projects that the department has. Just to say that before the HOD joined, and when I joined this committee, there were a lot of projects that had stopped and been incomplete for a long time. Other projects had started, but just the time to complete them goes way beyond the time frames that were set when the tender was awarded. So we as a committee are placing a lot of focus on making sure that projects that are not complete are being they start to complete them, and that we're also placing a lot of focus on making sure that if a road project is supposed to take 6 months, that it takes 6 months. It doesn't take longer than that. So we're putting a lot of focus on that, and the Transport Infrastructure House that the HOD was talking about is something that they brought into place last year to help them to be able to have better control over monitoring and tracking of projects that have either stopped or projects that are currently underway, to make sure that they get finished within the time frames. And those that haven't been completed for quite some time, that they look at what do they need to do to restart those. And I must say that last week, was it last week? No, it was about 3 weeks ago. We were out in near Diepsloot, and one of the roads we've been monitoring for quite some time, the P39, has been completed. And then there's another big road there, the K46, past Diepsloot. It's a road that we're placing a lot of attention on because we want to make sure it gets completed. So that's the kind of work that we do as a portfolio committee. And then the HOD also spoke about the issue of grass cutting. And there's been a big backlog of cutting grass on provincial roads, on the side of the roads, on middle islands and so on. So what the HOD was talking about there is how much grass they've cut, the areas where they've cut grass, and also indicating the areas that they are focusing on in the Ekurhuleni area. So I thought I should just explain that as well. And for us, it's extremely important that if grass is supposed to be cut, it needs to be cut. And so we're also playing a role as a committee in forwarding details of provincial roads where grass has not yet been cut. So those are really the two presentations that were presented to us. I want to check with committee members if you have any questions to ask. Member Ledwaba, anybody else? No, just you, Member Ledwaba.
Thanks, Chair. I want, Chair, to raise my frustration around the TIH, and must indicate upfront that every time we get a presentation on TIH, I become more confused. You remember at some point in time, I thought it's a PMO, and then we were corrected. At some point in time, I think it is a PSP. I'm not sure whether that would be the right thing. But as the presentation is made, I'm now thinking that it is more of what DIT is doing. Maybe you need to correct me. Because to me, I see a lot of redundancy and duplication. Maybe, Chair, there was at some point in time an indication that we must see this Transport Infrastructure House. Maybe we need to take that offer. And the personnel behind it. Who is this TIH in terms of personnel? Because basically they are doing what the department is doing. You have got the DDG, Chief Director, Directors, Program Managers, and Project Managers, whose functions or duties is to do exactly what they are doing. Now the question is, why do you have these people, this personnel that is within the department, and still outsource these functions to to a different company? Maybe it must be mentioned, Chair, that last time we were told that they have given this responsibility to Hedge that is getting 50 million rand a month. Every month for a period of 3 years. To do what? Just to do reporting and give us dashboard information? Is that what we've been paying for 50 million rand a month? I want to take it further, Chair, that very soon we are going to be told of Transport Infrastructure House getting involved in grass cutting. Because initially we were told that they are going to assist us with Vereeniging Intermodal Road, but even now nothing is happening. And we know that there are PSP that are contracted or appointed to do the same thing that they're doing. The spoken DLTC, there is no movement, there is no change. It is still as it were in 2019. As we have made reference with regard to P31/1, I don't think there is any specific input that they've made towards that particular road. Even K46, if we were to ask exactly what is it that they're doing K46, I don't think there is anything that they're doing. Because even last time when we went there, Chair, the project managers were the ones who were taking us through. There was not even a single person from transport infrastructure or HESH, whatever. So maybe, Chair, as I did indicate, we may need to zoom in and get to know these people behind the officials that we have, behind the HOD and everybody from GMA, to get these people who are behind this. 50 million rand a month is a lot. Thanks, Chair.
HOD, do you want to respond, and then I'll make some remarks at the end? HOD?
Chair, thank you very much. Chair, I'm not going to make reference to the amount that's paid because I do not have that figures. That amount seems very high. We would not pay that amount of money per month. I would have picked it up, so that amount is not correct. But Chair, let me say, I think Member Lidwaba, yes, I would want us to take up that offer. It's important to note that the Transport Infrastructure House is what we would call one system to manage what the department are dealing with from a process perspective through the different value chains of the department. So we are not saying that the Transport Infrastructure House will intervene in the Vereniging Intermodal Facility or in Sedipeng, or Sebokeng, but it is a facility that everybody that works on the different projects feeds into the system so that we can track project performance. So when the MEC asks for progress, it is not progress that is provided by one person with his own notebook, but you can use one system where progress can be provided for. So whilst we have HEDGE that has started to, and they have assisted us to conceptualize the system, we need to start moving them out because the department has now trained all its officials, led by the DDG, the chief directors and the different construction project managers that update the system on a regular basis. So Chairperson, I would like to say, let's stop the process here. Let's arrange a special session. I'll bring the full team that's working in the department. Also the limited support that HEDGE provides, so it's not even a big team that's there. The biggest team that supports this process is the department because we need to take over the system. But it is one system where we track project and program performance in the organization, Chair. Thank you very much.
No, thanks very much.
Chair, just a follow-up, one sentence. HESH, whatever company, has been contracted to provide this service for 3 years. That is what we were told. So can the HOD clarify on that one? Thank you.
Member Ladwaba, I think what we'll do, let's handle it this way. We've just, the HOD has given the committee a commitment, and we'll take up that commitment in that offer to have a focused engagement on the Transport Infrastructure House. Sorry? No, we will have that engagement, and we will ask all of these questions when we have that engagement. Let's not get into a to and fro here, otherwise we're going to delay ourselves. So that's what we'll do. I was just trying to get back. So let's deal with it that way, HOD. But HOD, there's a comment that I want to make. And that is just on your two presentations. Firstly, it's very clear. This pothole fixed GP app, it's very clear the public doesn't know about it. Because if you've only received 43 reports of potholes, I think that's what your presentation said. then it means that people don't know about this app. Either the app is difficult to use and is cumbersome, or there's sufficient awareness. And I think that needs to be looked at, because this app has been developed. It's supposed to make it easier to report potholes. But I'm not sure that the public is fully aware of this app. So I think that HOD, maybe there needs to be you need to be looking at a way as how are you going to advertise this app? How are you going to spread the word about this app and how to use it? So that indeed potholes can be reported and be fixed. But at the same time, you spoke about the capacity for your regional offices, your office here in Ekurhuleni and the other regions. And you spoke about the need for better capacity. But I want to argue that in those regional offices, HOD, there's a need for better monitoring of our provincial roads that are controlled by those offices. I'm not sure whether those provincial officers actually go out and check provincial roads, go out and check if potholes actually exist on those provincial roads. So whilst we have this app that you've developed, that's been developed, can we please make sure that in our regional offices, that those teams go out and check those roads? Because sometimes you find potholes have been there for months and months and months. I'm not talking about municipal roads now. I'm talking about on provincial roads. And I think we need to have better capacity to actually physically monitor and check our provincial roads, so that if there's a pothole, it can be fixed straight away. They can get a team out there and fix it. So there's a dual responsibility. Yes, let's make sure that the public gets informed of this app. But secondly, and more equally important, let's make sure that the regional officers of the department actually go out and check provincial roads. And where there's a traffic sign knocked down, where there's a pothole existing, where there's something wrong, that they actually get it reported and get it fixed. So that's what I would want to suggest that should be looked at, HOD. But I think on that note, we must accept the two reports, and we will engage further on that. In terms of our actual meeting here, I want to move quite quickly. Stimbiso, I think you are needed up here, otherwise I'll handle it quickly. But can you join me up here, Stimbiso, so we can just finish off the rest of the agenda. Honourable members, just to firstly indicate that next week we will be meeting, our committee meeting next week will actually be next week, Friday, the 2nd. We agreed to it in terms of our program. And it's part of the study on the political economy of transport in the province, where we'll be actually receiving a number of presentations from the department, and that's next week, Friday. Please just diarise that. In terms of the rest of the agenda, I want to go through it quickly so that we can draw this meeting to a close. Stimbiso, in terms of item 8 on the NCOP and provincial bills, are there any bills?
Thank you, Chair. There are no NCOP or provincial bills that have been referred to the committee.
In terms of item 9 petitions, there are petitions that have been given to the department. We need to engage. Yourselves need to speak to the Standing Committee on Petitions. Ask them for a full list of all the petitions they've given to the department, so that we can track those and monitor those on a quarterly basis. In terms of correspondence, is there any correspondence?
No, Chair, there's no correspondence at the moment.
Okay. As I've already indicated, the committee meeting next week is next week, Friday the 2nd, and it will include an oversight visit to the Transport Management Centre, which has been constructed. So I just want to indicate to everybody that actually has brought us to the conclusion of this particular committee meeting. Normally, if I can just indicate that committee meetings don't normally take place like this. We don't normally have the number of people in a committee meeting that we have here today. So what we try and do is every quarter, once a quarter, we go to a different area, as I've indicated, and we invite community members and stakeholders to come and listen and engage with us like we've done today. I hope that this session has given you a far better understanding as to how committees in the legislature operate, how we do our work, how we engage with departments. But I hope that the opportunity that you've had to ask questions has been of assistance to you. Some of them, their feedback has to be brought back, which we will make sure the department does. But I trust you found this session informative. I trust you found it useful. And I trust that we haven't wasted our time coming here. Somebody said to me at the start of this meeting, but actually it's been of a lot of use. We want to thank all of you for having joined us here today. And we look forward to seeing some of you again when we come back to Tsakani, as I've already indicated we will do. Probably in the last quarter of this year, we will come back to Tsakani with some of the answers that you've raised, but also to engage with a greater community of Tsakani as well. So on that note, thank you to all the committee members. Thank you to the HOD and the department. Thank you to all of you for having attended. Thank you very much. And on that note, the committee meeting is closed. Thank you very much. Please remember to hand these back. If you've got these, please hand them back. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. The meeting is closed.